The other clock says it's 6. So I'm going to start. Good evening. It is October 28th. I am Mark McIntyre, Chairman of the Southampton Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation. Joining me are my board members this evening, Nina Edward Anker and Susan Stevenson. And we have Kathy Buxton and Jane Clare. As we have quorum, I'm going to motion to open the October 28th meeting of the Southampton Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Also with this is our planning director, Alex Wallach here, our attorney, Alice Cooley. Jackie is the recording secretary in the back, and Sage is handling videography. So with that, I think we're off and running. For the record, the next meeting is November the 25th after tonight, but there is a special meeting discussing only landmarking considerations on November the 19th. Okay, to the agenda. First thing on the agenda tonight is minute approval from September 23rd. I know that I've been away, so I have not had time to read them, so I'm going to ask that we postpone the voting on September 23rd until I've had time to review them. The second thing on the agenda is written decisions, which is one for 345 Hill Street for Robert Coburn. Alice, I have not received that, or I did not find it.
No, sorry, I don't have it.
Okay, we're not ready yet? Okay, so we'll postpone that till next meeting. Next up is adjournment request. We have adjournment request for 60 Culver Street till November 25th. So a motion to accept the applicant request for an adjournment for 60 Culver Street to November 25th. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next thing up is signs. We seem to have a bunch of them tonight. So I think in order to move this process along a little faster, I'm going to
Go down there.
I'm going to change this up. I'm going to go put them on the overhead. ARB. You want to hand it back? Yeah, just leave it out so I can face out because the paper can start that way. Okay. Hello all. I never see you. All right. So the first signage request we have is for NPF on 32 Hampton Road. There's a bunch of them. Is anyone here from NPF? Okay. No? All right, I'll lay them out and we'll discuss them. So let me know, say if you can grab these. That is a sign for the front. It's the building that was Morley. That is a sign for the rear. I believe you guys, let me know if you want to see these, and I'll pass them back. I'm just trying to get them on camera for everybody at the same time. And this one is for some more detail.
Can he zoom in a little?
Okay. Is it possible to zoom in on this one first? Any closer, Sage?
Great.
There we go.
Thank you.
So they are company colors green. Let you guys go first. What do you think of that sign?
Font is too large.
Way too much too big.
Okay. Anyone else?
Is there a shot of any of the neighboring?
There's not, but if I move that,
There's a little tiny.
If you look at the scale of what was Morley Agency,
Oh,
to
yeah,
the right,
just replicate that.
because the size of the scale, I think, facing the street is way out of scale and way
Yeah.
too large. It needs to be
It's
right
gotta
there.
go lower down to that height.
Yeah. Okay. And then this is a sign here that, from what I see, it faces the back. It goes to the parking lot. It holds their parking spaces in the back. Anybody have thought?
Where is the sign on there?
This is in the back of the building facing the parking lot.
I see that, but where's the proposed sign going to go?
The sign is here. Sorry. There you go.
Oh, it's on the
Employee
door?
entrance only.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with
That's
that.
fine.
I'm just really curious that the color green on the back sign is very green, but on the front it didn't come off as being nearly that green.
I think the sign on the front is an aluminum stud location. It's indicated on the front that it is black. Is that right? Yeah, it's indicated on the front that it's black. It's just the scale is way too large. Yeah, if there's someone that wants to come in on this, because there's a lot here. Sound coming in? Yep. Feels odd to be this low. These 12 face level. Kind of nice. Hello? Anyone coming in safe? Is someone on the line there for NPF? I'm sorry, NFP?
What is that? And where's Moorlink? They still
Counting down.
maybe they were.
Okay, while we wait for
Maybe
them,
they're the because I know they
to your
were
question,
building.
Jane, which is a good question. The front is aluminum stud, and it appears to be black in front of the building. The corporate, on the client sheet, the corporate color is green, which is what the signs are on the back. But the sign of the door seems to be black.
Well, it doesn't seem like anyone's
Yeah.
showing up. Well,
you think
too
your
bad.
camera's not on.
We got, what?
Where's that sheet of paper?
Yeah, sorry. They,
Come back to them later, maybe.
yeah. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, well, we'll wait and see if they appear. Anybody have any concerns about the employee entrance only sign in the back facing the parking lot?
I got
No.
So that one, a scale issue with that one seems fine. Third one is an NFP and Ion company in green that's building mounted to the right of the door.
Do we have that going on back there with other built
It's
properties?
this sign in that location.
And that is the back?
No, that's the
That's the
front.
front.
That's
That's
the
the
front.
So
on the
wait, there are
left.
two signs now?
That's the front, because if you look at,
That's the eastern side of the
because if you
building.
look at, remember the old Morgan building, there's the bigger building and then it steps down.
Step
into the
down.
front
Yeah.
side of the building. Anyone have any thoughts or concerns about that sign? It seems to be about the same sign as the Morley sign that was there.
Okay.
Alright,
It's okay.
so, whatever.
And here's a side sign which has their hours, which goes on the side wall by the front door of the larger structure, which is that. And the sign looks like that.
Of what company? It's in, Aon is an international insurance company.
Mm-hmm.
It just is.
Any thoughts or concerns about this sign?
I don't mind that sign.
So it seems like the only one we need to give them feedback on is the scale and size of the large block sign.
Absolutely. Where does that leave us then?
That leaves us that each one of them there's 4 separate applications here, so the ones we're fine with, we can
Oh,
sign off
okay.
on, and the one that needs to go back, needs to go back.
Okay, great.
Okay. Next up is UBS Builders.
And just to remind the board, this is a contractor sign, which is an annual permit that can be put anywhere in the village with the owner's consent. So it's not specific to one property.
Any thoughts?
What is the bottom part of that sign, like takeaways or something, like?
No, that's not anything to do with
Looks
it.
like that's where they put the building permits.
The low part is where we put the permit.
Okay.
Okay.
It's on the glass, so it protects it.
What about the size?
Yeah.
This one,
The size meets building standards, correct?
Okay,
I believe, yeah, the building inspector would have looked at that.
I think this is.
this sign has been approved on First Net and Meadow Lane and previous projects. That's
Can-
the same sign.
Who is
in
that?
black? I thought it was white on First Net.
Can you identify yourself, please?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, you are?
I'm sorry, Donald Wilson, you just built this? First Net.
Thanks.
wasn't the one on First Net white with black letters? Well, I know it
I
was.
don't believe so, I'm very sure that this is the sign we've been using for the last 3 or 4 years.
Okay, and this sign's going up at 500 Ox Pasture?
Yes.
Okay. I would tell you that in my opinion, I think it's fine. I actually like the fact that the permits are in glass so they don't start looking at disaster
Right.
after a few months.
All right,
Okay, agreed.
it's
Yeah.
okay.
And I think we're good to go on that one. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good evening.
Same to you. Next up is George Gomez Design. Just so you all know, we don't require the sign people to give us 8 copies. Not everybody has a copy, which is why we do it this way. Okay, there's George Gomez Design. Is anyone here from George Gomez Design? Did I say? Come on up and share the mic.
Good evening. I'm actually Jorge Gomez.
Okay,
Jorge Gomez.
Well, just introduce yourself for the record there.
I did. I am George Gomez. The one trying to get these 2 signs. Actually, it's me and my partner. We're trying to get co-tenants and we're trying to get 2 signs from these. Previously, I already do the sign company. So.
And you're only asking for the George.
Both of them.
You for both signs.
Yeah.
For both signs.
Yeah, I believe
Yes.
I should have done like one application. They told me.
Yeah.
At the very end,
This
yeah.
was the t-shirt shop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Board members, any concerns or any thoughts?
It looks okay to me.
Me too.
Looks okay to me.
Fine.
Anyone? Okay.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Short and sweet, not often here. It's good.
Thank you.
Next is Nest Keepers Property Management.
That's
What?
them.
That's you. I'm sorry, that's you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, sorry.
so
They did 2 applications.
2 applications.
Yeah.
Okay, then it's Fifth and Dune Partners, which is next. Okay. Representing Fifth and Dune Partners, hello.
Hi, Ron Fisher from Fisher Signs and Shirts.
Okay. Picture. And there's not, this is just one sign, right?
It's just the middle one, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're looking to do raised acrylic, just like Mosket, except not as thick. And then I brought color samples for you so you can see the colors.
Great. These are the colors?
Yes.
Where's the orange?
It's that one right next to it, that brownish color.
This?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So they originally, their logo is gold. You guys advised against gold, so we picked that brownish color.
Okay.
It is what it is.
Anybody have any concerns? I think it's fine. Anyone? Okay. All right. Right. Thank you. Okay, that one seems fine. Okay. That brings us up to, are you Hampton's Bridal as well?
I'm the rest.
Are you the rest? Well, look at you. Okay, so take us through it.
Okay, Hampton's Bridal is on Hill Street.
Give me one
And-
second. I got to get a picture up for the.
Sorry. Sure. So that's Hampton's Bridal on the building on Hill Street on the corner. Everyone that sees the Pilates studio wants the raised letters. So I brought you a sample of the raised letters that they're looking for. One with a matte finish, one with a gloss finish, in case you're more inclined to approve one over the other. This meets code, and this is the size of the actual letter that would go in that framed area that's already part of the building.
Board members.
I feel the font is too big for the framed area.
Okay.
It just looks cramped.
Okay.
I agree with you. I think it's strident for Hampton's Bridal.
Yep, I think the lettering scale inside the framework needs more air.
Okay.
So I think the actual letters need to come down.
If we do a 20% reduction, would that be enough?
Probably.
Probably, we'd have to see it, but
Yeah.
but probably.
Okay.
Right now, it just looks doesn't look quite as purposeful as it will when the letters are smaller.
So utilitarian looking too. for
Yeah,
bridal.
I mean,
It's
I
very-
agree.
Right, I mean,
For once, it could be girly, but
Yeah.
it's not. Okay.
yeah, and matte, I would vote for matte, not shiny, but whatever.
It looks
There are
like the kind
different
of letters
types
you
of
stick on.
brides.
Yeah, there's thickness to it, so
No, I'm just
Oh.
saying, you know, the kind that you change all the time. That's
Oh.
what the font.
Well, it
Interesting.
almost looks like a theater marquee.
Yeah,
where they
exactly,
put
yeah.
Well, at
you
our
know, the-
marquee, it does look like that.
Right?
So maybe, probably not,
Jaws.
as long as they're changing.
So what I'm hearing is smaller letters give it more air, and I think you're going to get more love for matte than you're going to get for shiny.
perfect.
Okay, so
Yes.
you'll come back with new drawings.
I'd like to email them if the sign committee will approve them.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
What happens is you come back, we look at it, and if they don't approve them, then it comes back to the meeting. But if we do, then we move on.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you, Ron.
You're welcome.
Next up. Where are you next? You're at Adam Jordan Architecture.
Yes.
Okay. I found this confusing, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't know what I'm looking at.
It's a job site, a contractor sign, and then the printer at the building department didn't print it out right, so that's the updated one that shows the colored background. Or the resolution I had sent wasn't right. That's the actual one, Mark.
Okay.
Yeah, the rest are 7 copies that you don't want.
Is there any rendering that shows how this thing is mounted? Is it mounted on a board? Is it
I have
mounted
one
on
here.
sticks? Is it mounted on?
It's part of another sign that you guys had approved for David Bennett Construction. That one was approved with sign committee. So it's going to be mounted below the David Bennett Construction sign on white posts.
Oh. Well, it's totally minimalist. It's okay with me.
You too.
Anyone?
It's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And are you also Wave Social?
Yes, and the owner of the business is here to join me.
Okay. Hello, how are you?
Good.
If you'll introduce yourself for us, please.
Lisa Zaloga, also known as the other Lisa.
I was going to say, unless,
The original, the OG.
I realize I was on a long flight today, but you don't look like the Lisa logo I know. Okay. Okay.
So we're proposing the same pin letters that we're doing 2 stores down for Hampton's Bridal. It would be mounted acrylic. It's a really shadowed picture, but that is a white stucco building. It was very challenging to get a picture in the bright light that would show it as white. But it's raised acrylic letters, 6 inches tall, that would come in between the windows, which is in scale with the business next door, Barryville General. However, theirs isn't pin letters, but it takes the same width of the building, and the letter height is the same as the Barryville General lettering height.
I'm distributing. Hang on.
Are you working it?
I am. I'm just trying to move through signage here.
So now you want 8 copies? I got you, Mark.
So it's black on, it's.
So actually, it's black on white, but this is a shadow that we're seeing where the fire alarm or the alarm box is to the right. That's actually white, and this is black letters on white.
Correct. You can see the actual color of the building. You can see by
Right.
the windows.
Okay,
Okay.
I have no objection.
I think it's fine.
Looks nice.
Sounds like we have no
Always
objection.
make me
Okay.
say
Sounds like it's
first.
approved.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a nice night.
Now I have to make sense of this. I'll do that later. Okay. Then next up, we have a demo evaluation for One Boatman LLC at One Boatman Lane. I believe someone is here. Hello. I'm going to let you introduce yourself while I go in transit.
Bailey Larkin with Bennett and Reed, offices at 212 Windmill Lane in Southampton. This is a request for demolition evaluation of a property located at One Boatman's. It's a corner lot. It's the only house on the street, actually, with frontage on Halsey Neck Lane. The property is not in the historic district. The house itself We couldn't get an exact date out of the building department records. According to the town mass appraisal, it was built at approximately 1949. It's not shown on the Sanborn map, obviously. And we did include in the application a copy of the property record card showing that this house has been altered multiple times. There's been second-story additions, dormers added, a porch over the course of, I think it was 8 applications from 1972 on. We weren't able to locate any information about the original architect for the house. It does appear in a 1962 aerial, so that's why we're here this evening. But we believe the approximate date's about 1949. It's not of any distinguishing architectural style, the home. And I would say that it's probably not a familiar feature since it's not really visible from either Halsey Neck Lane or Boatman. It's kind of tucked up against the water frontage of the property. It's a low, kind of 1.5-story home. We did submit photos with the board. We'd ask that you approve demolition.
Do you have the copy of the village record there?
I do.
Can you just read off the dates and the types
Sure.
of construction? Because if I remember correctly, there are 4 or 5 different alterations done to the building.
Correct.
It was in the electronic file.
Yeah. Hold on a second.
It's the,
Oh, here. Okay, you're right. It's buried in the paperwork.
let's see.
There was accessory structure built in 1979, an addition in 1989, addition with columns that was not completed, but there was an addition with a balcony completed in 1997. There were additions and alterations in 2000. So there were about 4 different approvals.
Okay. It's interesting. It says addition over column. It says addition over columns, work not done.
Correct, that one was not
So we'd
completed.
like to do it, but we didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. Board members, any thoughts?
I like the house, it's too bad, I have no way to stop it.
But maybe preserve the original core and
No one will do
replace
that.
the additions.
No. You won't. I think it's kind of like it used to be, how houses, before the invasion of the McMansion apartment. It has a kind of kooky character, additions. And,
It has a charm to it. I guess the
Yeah.
standard we're looking at is would
There.
we landmark
no,
it?
you can't.
Yeah.
landmark it.
I don't see anything here that would make it
No, I agree.
worthy of landmarking
That
because
is
it's outside the
unfortunate.
historic district.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's a great house.
It is a great house. So I guess the question here is we have to move to not landmark the house. Is that correct, Alice?
The board is going to vote that it does not propose to designate the building as a landmark.
Okay. So I'm going to move that we not designate One Boatman's Lane as or pursue historic landmark proceedings on One Boatman's Lane. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unfortunately, aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Hate to see these old houses go.
No, and it really is kind of kooky and great. There's another one.
Hey, Mark, before we move on, I'm missing some affidavits on driveway gates.
Can you all hear her? Can you hear Alice?
The last word.
Yeah, because my mic is kind of stuck. All right, here we
It's
go.
not working?
No, it's just stuck. All right, I got it. All right. I'm missing some affidavits on driveway gates. 405 Ox Pasture, 1100 Meadow Lane. I have mailing, but I don't think I got posting. And if I'm wrong about that, don't kill me. And 1080 Meadow Lane. So if you have them, just give them to me, please. Oh, thanks.
Anything else you're missing?
That's a lot.
Well, I'm still missing 405 ox pasture and 1080. Do I have mailing? Okay. All right. I'll look at my email. Thanks.
Okay. When we get there, we'll see what you've got then. Okay, so that brings us to
300 North Main Street.
Yep, that brings us to public hearings, historic carryover matters, 300 North Main Street, for exterior alteration to existing dwelling.
For the applicant, David Gilmartin Jr., Greenberg Troy, 2317 Montauk Highway, Bridgehampton. This,
Sorry, David. So the applicant renoticed and the affidavits are in order.
Oh, okay, thank you.
so this house has been in front of you for a long time, and we've worked through a lot of issues. I believe the only outstanding issue is the reconstruction of a severely dilapidated deck. That our last meeting, we had our architect/engineer here who explained to you the challenges. The deck is over 30 inches in height, and the state
We're
building...
talking about the front porch, right?
Yeah, front porch. The state building code requires a railing of 36 inches. The existing railing is at 27 inches. We have engaged an architect who is an expert in historic structures, who's trying to put together two different views, which I believe the chairman asked for. One with the 27 and lowering the house, and the other one at the 36 and what it will look like. We don't have those ready yet.
Well, wouldn't the other option just be regrading the property?
Well, I mean...
Because if we have a height problem off of grade, and you're lifting the house and putting it back down, you're going to be regrading the
regrading has
property.
always been a significant issue, especially zoning-wise, because that's how people increase the ultimate height of a building. We did talk about that with the building inspector, who we did meet and went through the problem and acknowledged that we do have an issue. But we did talk about that, and artificially raising a grade is something that's frowned upon.
Well,
yeah, I would agree with David on that.
okay,
It's a
because
bit of a
that's what the
no-no.
building inspector had
People
suggested
build,
to me.
You know, put a big sand.
Okay.
Once that gets going.
But I
things
think,
go crazy.
the problem is that is not the big issue that we had. The big issue that we had is in a historic house, you were taking all the framing out of the first floor and raising the first floor ceiling height by 1.5 feet or 2 feet.
Well,
That was an issue.
Well, it's remaining the same. It's the floor that's being lowered is how I believe the
Well,
architects
whether you
would
want,
describe
whether you
it.
call it lowering the floor or we're out to
Well,
lowering
I
the river,
think we have to
raising the.
describe it accurately for the record.
It still makes the.
You're still changing the
room
ceiling
taller.
height and the
Right. I mean,
and the
so-
front
so-
floor ratio of a
so
historic
there's-
home.
I understand that, but we have a problem where we can't replace it in kind. So there has to be some flexibility.
What can't you
in this
replace in
process.
kind?
The way that it sits today, we cannot replace it. It won't pass inspection.
Are you talking about the railing or the first floor?
The railing. First
Well,
floor will
let's-
pass inspection. The railing won't.
No, the problem we had is the entire first floor. They wanted to do what they did on South Main, which was to take all the framing out of the
Well,
first
first of
floor.
all, I don't think
and
South
whether you
Main-
call it
South
and
Main-
whether you call it lowering the floor or raising the ceiling height of the first floor is going to change, and you're taking framing out, center framing out on a historic structure, and that's what I think that was the even bigger issue than the railing.
Well,
And I haven't
it's the
seen
ra-
any
it-
other plans since that address that issue.
I understand, and if you let me explain, which I had started to, that we did hire an expert in this to get us elevations to see what each looks like. I think you're missing the point somewhat in the lowering and raising. Lowering the floor keeps the height of the first floor at what it was historically.
But it
raising
changes.
it.
But it changes the floor.
I
It
understand.
changes the floor height,
of
and what we
course
all
it does.
objected to is you're changing the outward of appearance of a single because the distance from the top of the door to the bottom of the first floor changes. The window ratio changes facing the street, and you're altering the street facing perspective of a historic house, and that's where I saw, and I haven't seen any other drawings or anything from anybody that addresses that issue.
Right, which I told you are forthcoming.
Okay.
Right, it's why I'm here tonight to explain that they're forthcoming We had to re-advertise this. We've been hard at work at that. And you did ask for it, and we will provide it. But we had to find somebody with some sort of expertise
I
in
get
this that can do that.
Then why are we? What are you here for tonight? Just to tell us that you did it, or to open the record, or?
Well, we anticipated being able to present that tonight, and our expert was not able to get it together. So we're looking for an adjournment to your next meeting.
Oh,
All right, okay.
okay. So motion to accept the applicant request for an adjournment for 300 North Main Street to November 25th. Is there a second?
Second.
All in
Thank you.
favor? Aye. Okay. That brings us up to, I believe, Rob, that brings us to Rob Coburn at 345 Hill Street. Oops, I'm sorry. I got the microphone facing the wrong way there.
Flip it around. Get settled. Good evening. Can you hear me? Thank you, board. I was here a month ago, and we had a two-part. You very generously divided it, and I know we don't have the written approval for the fence and the hedge, but we adjourned and carried over the proposal for solar on the garage. I think with an agreement for everybody to reconsider, for me, starting with me, to reconsider and look at options and things that might help the situation. So I really started from ground zero, started from the beginning again, had two of the three experts who'd come to assess my property before come back. Sort of questioning all of the factors that had gone into my original proposal. I would like to get renewable energy onto this property. I am, for reasons that I put in a letter to you, I'm not a candidate currently. It would be difficult for me to put geothermal into my property. So solar's the only option that I have. There are really three locations on the property that are viable according to the engineers. The roof of the main house, which I don't think you want, and I certainly don't want. The front yard, which I don't want, I don't think you want, or the garage. And of them, just for technical reasons from their standpoint, the garage is the best. So I didn't hear exactly what some of the concerns were last time, but I imagine it was a visibility issue being seen from the street. So I did go through the exercise of positioning some screening that would further screen the garage, and I can get to that and show that. I think it's in the materials that I've given you already. But I also wanted to just take a quick step back because I didn't provide any context in my last time here in terms of my experience with historic preservation. I'm not going to bore people with it now, but it's in the letter that I sent to you. I did put a lot of time into that original presentation. And the headline here is, I'd like to continue the dialogue on that original presentation, because there's some legislative and community context, which again is in the letter, but just for the public record, I'll say that there is a climate emergency declaration that's been made in Southampton Village, and climate mitigation and elimination of greenhouse gases is not just meant to be a consideration, it's meant to be a guiding principle and an objective of all village decisions. That's not binding on you, but it's a directional statement of intent by the village. That declaration also said that the comprehensive plan should address ways to encourage renewable energy and sustainable practices in the village. And the comprehensive plan, in fact, does that. So I don't know if it'd be helpful to go through the presentation for you or for the public. I can do that.
I don't think so. I think we remember that part.
Okay, all right. So just to be clear, though, I want to cite a couple things in the comprehensive plan, and let me just get to it in my notes here. So it does have multiple references and a clear encouragement of renewable energy. The objectives that are stated, the recommendations and objectives in the comprehensive plan include, and these are quotations, promoting sustainable patterns of development, incorporating strategies to address climate change, encouraging residents to adopt actions for tapping into renewable energy, and helping Southampton residents reduce their impacts on the climate with individual actions. So that's some of the context. It also very significantly, I know this hasn't been done, but the comprehensive plan proposes, and this is quotes as well, revising the zoning code to promote roof-mounted accessory solar installations on publicly and privately owned buildings. So I give this context partly because I got feedback from a lot of people who had viewed the last meeting or had heard about my application, that they were frustrated that it was going to be denied. I think substantively, just remind that the garage itself is not a contributing structure. It's not on the blue sheets. And it is more than 100 feet back from the front of the house. It is already partly screened. And so, in the materials I gave you, I proposed adding screening in a couple locations, a couple trees or shrubs in the southeast corner of the property near the street, and then a sort of wall of probably arborvitae about 50 feet in front of the garage, which the renderings that are in the materials I gave you show would make the roof and the solar installation not visible from the street. My concerns with that are that that screening actually would also eliminate a sense of depth on the property. It would eliminate all views of the garage from everywhere. I think there's some additive benefit to seeing the depth. So my feeling was that the screening route actually created more negatives than it solved. And I guess, and I know I'm not here to question you, but I guess I'm curious as to the sensitivity about seeing this. The garage is only visible for about 50 feet of the 240-foot frontage of the property on Hill Street. If you walk along the sidewalk, you see for about 30 feet or so near the driveway and about another 15 feet on the eastern edge of the property. And so I guess I would like to ask, the request here is to reconsider, see if you've done what I've done, which is reconsidering all these factors, and whether there is any additional questions or further thinking about allowing that original proposal.
I'll start with board members. I know we're split on this. I'll start with board members.
I can start. I specialize as an architect in solar design,
Can you pull the mic up for me?
I firmly believe that solar BIPV, which stands for built-in voltaics, can be incorporated in architecture as a design element if it's carefully thought through, which it seems to be here extremely carefully thought through. And I believe that this material palette is great. I think that the rendering doesn't do it justice. There's a line underneath this array that, to me, will disappear and be even more invisible from the street. If the board still has any kind of issues with this, I have installed black solid panel arrays on white garages with solid black asphalt roofs, and they are completely invisible and no one notices them. So I would definitely promote this type of integration of solar panels in the typology of the black asphalt roof over garages, because they are invisible and I've witnessed it.
Okay. Board members?
I was hoping that maybe you'd bring a sample, only because it's very new to me to see something like this. And
Of the panel?
Well, I'm sure. I thought maybe like it was possible to bring part of a panel. I know they're large.
Yeah. I've actually asked 3 different suppliers if they have like a small portion of it. 2 of them laughed at me, and one of them said yes, and I can have it to you in 2 months. So, if we want to return for 2 months, I hopefully would have a sample, but I don't have one.
Green Logic right up by Hampton Jitney probably has samples.
I called them and they never called back. I left 2 messages for them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I've thought about it long and hard, and I'm trying to see this disappear, but the rendering doesn't seem to disappear in the rendering. And because it's such a classically old house, I was originally quite opposed to it.
The rendering I think the rendering you're referring to is a photograph taken, yeah, from about
This-
55 feet in front of the property.
This rendering doesn't do it justice. Like, there's,
you-
these lie flat on the roof. You've drawn a big line here that.
It's a shadow line,
With
yeah.
its,
But
the shadow line doesn't even exist.
anyway, just for, there's another 200 feet further from where the public would
Right,
see it
right.
without the benefit of the screen that already exists.
Well, what I wanted to say was, I don't want you to block the garage by putting arborvitae in front of it, because I think that is just counterproductive in any way. I don't think we need to be hiding this garage. I don't think we need to be screening it. If it's going to be as invisible as it's said to be, then I have to say that I'm not able to vote against it.
I mean, my concern is not, it's precedent. I know everything you do so well. So I'm actually not concerned. I'm sure if you were going to put it on, it's going to disappear. That is I wish the village had taken up and changed the zoning.
Me
code.
too.
So that was my reservation, that we give you approval, but what is the next person going to do who's perhaps not going to do it to the same level?
Understand.
I'm interested to hear what my fellow board members say on that, but that's my only hesitation.
I
on
can
that
speak to that.
subject. Yeah.
I think that there are several factors that could distinguish what Rob is doing here from what any person that is proposing solar could do to be sure to protect solar assets, because Rob has, proposed something extremely respectful. So I think, we can just be really careful to be sure to say that, this is well set back. It's not on the historic asset. And, we've talked about how it's not going to be visible. Solar is removable. So I think that, if we discuss, those aspects of it, then, maybe it does make sense here. But sorry to cut you off.
Yeah. No. So anyway, that's my only.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I just
Yeah.
comment. You're in a tough area. It's obviously new, generally, not just on historic structures, but generally. And the folks who are experts on it have danced around it. The best so far is the National Trust for Historic Preservation. They haven't actually published full guidelines. They've given like 5 principles. I'm sure, Mark, you've done this research,
Yes.
as you know.
I think I read them in the last meeting, yes.
Yeah, and so, there's not a whole lot of guidance out there. I would say there are a couple of their principles that are very helpful, and whether it's guidelines that you guys give or that gets into the code eventually, the idea of not being on the actual contributing asset is important. They recommend specifically trying to ground mount it far away from the building. That's tough to do in any village setting, no matter how big the property is. But they recommend being on an accessory structure, not on the historic structure. So there are some guidelines that, I'd be happy to help develop, actually. Anyway, just thought I would throw that comment in.
I went all kinds of crazy. So, because I understand both parts of it. Here's where I started with an aerial view, because one of the guidelines says if you've got a modern extension, to use the modern extension. In your particular case, the more recent work that was done to the house, not the 17, there are roof lines, but they face the wrong direction.
Correct.
So it makes no sense.
Yep.
And then I went back and focused on the original structure, because the original structure was actually a storefront that was closer to Hill Street. And I believe because the top of I went back to look at the tape from last meeting, but for some reason the tape starts halfway into the meeting.
I know.
And because at the beginning of your setup, you said that the back of the building was asphalt, which meant the front of that building was wood facing the storefront of it, I think. So I thought about that.
It was
when it
not
was
a wood
poured.
roof. It was the whole thing was the whole new structure was asphalt roof.
And then I was like, okay, but then you didn't. But in 1942, somebody picked the building up and moved it and changed its relationship to the to the original structure. So then my question becomes, if we've picked up the building and we changed its situation to the original structure, does it still maintain its historic status? Because it still is a 1915 building that's been moved. But then you put it into adaptive reuse in 1994, and you put four garage doors.
1999, 2000. Yep.
You put four garage doors from it and actually changed its use. So that, because one of the things, we're charged with a few things here. We're charged with, as a certified local government, one of the things we look for is visually the streetscapes. The same issue I have with the last applicant who wants to take a historic house and change the front perspective of that house.
Mm-hmm.
When you have historic districts, the thing you don't do is change the perspective to the street, because it starts changing what we are as a village in our historic districts. And for a whole lot of reasons, it's one of the things we protect the village from, because then you start to chip away at the charm of a village. In this particular case, so it's like, okay, so if I've got a structure, it's been moved, it's no longer in situation, it's been moved on the back of the property, it's gone into adaptive reuse. The one thing I started thinking about is putting, we're putting modern asphalt on shingles on what was as sort of a historic property, and did that make sense to me? So I had to think about that for a minute. There's nobody on this board that's against solar energy. What we're for is the visual presentation of Southampton Village and the streets of Southampton Village. And you see us, it's why we don't let people just pick up and move houses, because it changes their situation to the street. So that's what I sort of look like. I do personally think they're still a little bit visible. I would abhor you putting arborvitae in front of it, because I do think that what you've built is gorgeous, and I actually think the perspective of the street is beautiful. But I feel like you've got board members here that have sort of reconsidered. I think they've done a good job of, the first reaction was the precedent issue, which is important, because I think if we're going to have to ask, I'm going to go the other way and ask the trustees actually to look at the Sagaponic rulings, because I think we do need code on it. But I don't know. I don't know that this is going to, from the street level, be horrible, because you have screened it. So I've sort of come 50-50 on it. Personally, I worry a little bit about the lifespan of solar energy, because as technology keeps changing. Yeah. The change in solar energy. I personally wonder, when we look at the carbon footprint of building, manufacturing, moving, installing, and maintaining solar versus its actual savings over time for the lifespan of the product. What are we going to learn 10 years from now? Yeah. Or will we get more efficient as we go on? Will Tesla make more sense? Who knows? But for right now, I feel like you have enough support at this board to get where you need to be without it becoming a total precedent issue because of your distance from the street. And I do believe, I was going to think about asking Zach Studenroth to give an opinion on this, but I think what we will find is when you've moved a historic structure from its original structure, it's lost some of its standing, and because you put it into adaptive reuse, it's still a historic structure, but it's in a different use.
With respect to the garage, I just also say, if that building, even when I bought it, had any distinguishing architectural features, anything that was unique or charming or any of that, I might think differently about it. It was built as a warehouse. Yeah. It is historic, literally, and it's built really well.
Yeah. It built enough to move it 200 feet or however, or they moved it in 1942.
And look, I appreciate the thought that you put into this. Clear that you've considered things, and not to beat a dead horse here, but I wrestle with a lot of things you wrestle with, Mark, honestly, even as the owner of the house, and I want to get this approved. But, then I looked at the standards, and the standards, the first paragraph in the criteria standard sort of says that that the dividing line is a substantial adverse effect. You can find that there's an adverse effect or something you don't like, but it has to be substantial. And I don't know what that definition is.
And substantial is subjective. And
it's very subjective.
There are 30 attorneys who will walk in this in the next 5 meetings and give me completely different definitions of what substantial means, depending on what they're looking for. So I hear you.
I would just say, in talking to the 9 neighbors I spoke to who signed petitions that are part of the record, I had 3 of them say to me, "You have a garage?" These are people who have lived next to me for years and walk by or drive by my house every day. They'd never seen it. Now, if you look at it, now that you know it's there, I'm sure some people do notice it, and I'm sensitive to that. But I appreciate the consideration you've put in. I think there were some people who maybe were going to...
There probably are.
Okay.
Comments from the public, please.
Good evening, Maggie Finnerty, Wally Street.
I'm sorry, can you pull the microphone down so we can hear it? And
Okay.
say that again, please.
Sorry, Maggie Finnerty, Woolley Street. I spoke at the last meeting.
You did.
And after I heard the meeting, I drove up and down the street the next day, a couple of days, trying to look for this view, knowing the house, because I know you talk so strongly about the view. It was almost impossible to find this view. You had to stop in the middle of Hill Street with your car and try to look down this driveway to find this. And I looked for pedestrians. I went 3 times. I didn't see a single pedestrian anywhere. So I was questioning when we talk about the view of historic buildings, essentially way, way back on a property, on what never was much of a good building. We're making the trade-off here between the history and literally our very survival, as we all know, and I know you're all on the same side of this, that we have to do something about this renewable energy. And so on something like this that you can't even see, and that he has done such a good job and has such a good reputation in this area, I think at the end of the last meeting we had talked about going to the trustees to try and see if we can write the legislation a little bit better that would be more acceptable to this kind of a thing, because we really have to do it. We have to find that compromise. We can't compromise our future against our past. So I would like to really consider that, and I'm glad to see that you're really on that same side. And I think we can work it out with Rob, hopefully, and this and other future houses to save both our history and our future ability to breathe on this earth. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Nick Palumbo. I live at 380 Hill Street. I'm a former member of this board. I can see Rob's house very clearly from my front yard. I can't quite see the garage, but I walk past it all the time, and I do see it then. And I'm very much in favor of his application, and I'm glad to see the board is reconsidering it. I'm glad Mackie spoke first to eloquently express the urgency of the need here to reduce our environmental footprint, and I think this is a step in the right direction. I hope you'll support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Slattery. I'm a resident of the village on Corrigan Street, which since 2020 has undergone a massive transformation, and it doesn't have the character of the street that I moved on just 3 years prior in 2017. The house at 345 Hill Street is absolutely stunning, and it's maintained and it's loved and taken care of. And to bring it one step into the future, I think is a really good precedent for the village. I think it shows that we want people to take these homes and love them as well as Rob and his husband have. I'm also a real estate broker. I've represented so many historic homes in the village, and so I meet people all the time who feel as I do and feel as they do, but we need to help people want those houses more than tear everything down like the street on which I live, which looks like not the village anymore. And it's a troubling trend that I find. So I hope that this gets approved.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Sage, is anyone online? Okay. I think I'm going to motion then. Let's see how this goes. Where's my piece of paper? I always do this. I file on my paper. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to motion to move to written decision to approve the application for solar panels at and the roof work at 345 Hill Street. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There you go. We did reconsider.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Okay, so that brings us to new matters. That was an adjournment, which brings us to carryover matters for public hearing non-historic. We have an adjournment. The first was 106 Powell Avenue to construct 2-story single-family dwelling.
Do I have that the right way?
Hello?
Do I have that the right way? Or should be the other way?
No, I think it's that way now, yeah.
Okay.
We changed that, right? Say she faces us. Okay, if you'll introduce yourself, sir.
Sure. Good evening, Nicholas Vera, architect, 120 Mill Road, West Hampton Beach, for the applicant of the Darrows. Last we were here was about a month ago, and we talked about a couple changes, specifically colors of the roof. I believe our last proposal called for a black roof, both the asphalt roof and the standing seam roof. We have reconsidered that to go, I'm proposing to do I think a Virginia slate, which the sample that you see here, and an asphalt roof. On my submission that I submitted to the board last Monday, the color of the standing seam roof, I was assuming was going to be what's on there as a bronze. I received the sample last Friday, and I apologize, but it was not what I had intended it to be. It would have just set off another color, and it would have drawn a lot more attention to our standing seam roof. So my proposal now, I'm asking for this board to consider a slate gray, which should match pretty much the asphalt roof color, keep it kind of in the same tones, so we're not drawing attention to that standing seam roof. And as I'd explained to the board the last time, I had lowered the pitch of that roof, so we're not seeing so much visual area of the standing seam roof. Also, at the last meeting, the board suggested that I go back to the original design of the two flanking windows in the one on the staircase and one on the other side of the front the hallway. Go back to a little bit wider door and introduce two side lights, as you see here in the rendering. I also submitted catalog cuts that the board asked for the dark sky sconces that we're proposing. Those were part of the submission that I had made. One thing that I submitted but was not correct was the rear elevation that we talked about. Mark, specifically that one window, the transom window
over the sliders?
Over the slide, yeah. I electronically submitted the change to that. I believe it was last Thursday or Friday to Francis. And you can see here at your suggestion how I lowered the window. So these top windows all match that freeze board that we have. So those were the suggested changes that this board made, and that's what I have submitted to you.
Board members.
I think the proportions and the symmetry, especially the back elevation you just showed, were elegantly proportioned.
Thank you.
Jane, Kathy?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
You too.
When you're saying slate gray, which color is slate gray?
That's the slate gray.
Okay.
That's. I just wanted to show you what the standing seam would look like, because it's a low profile.
Okay, so it's not that big black.
Originally it was the black roof, but that's why I did the slate gray. I just wanted you to be able to see what the standing seam were. I couldn't get a sample in time.
And the asphalt is that black?
The asphalt is this color here, which is, I'm trying to read upside down. It's not a black, it's a gray.
It's gonna read blackish.
Pretty dark. I think there's too much standing seam on the house. It clutters it. What is the point of having the standing seam above the two windows?
Because
I think that might
really
help to eliminate.
So again, the second floor is stepped back from the front of the house, as you can see if you looked at the side elevations. And again, it was because of the square footage, to keep the square footage down. That's how I broke.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the reason why I did that. So it was both form and function that we did that. And then I had introduced those window seats in those both front bedrooms. So that's why that standing seam goes across the roof. I mean, it breaks it up other than doing it with a freeze board.
What about above the two windows, flanking?
I'm sorry, excuse me?
What is going on up?
Above the two windows in the gable on both sides?
Yeah. What's that for?
I bumped out, there's window seats in
They're
this
bumped
front
out?
bedroom. They're bumped out,
Like
there's window
this or
seats.
this before. But is it necessary?
Well-
Because it's shallow and it gets wet when it rains? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's correct.
Or you could paint it white, or have the white material instead of the,
It just, to me, it's, okay. I feel it's just, it's strident in a way that I think that Nina's right. The actual house, it's like bones of the house appear okay, but then you put all this metal all over it, which I think is excessive, especially,
So is it the metal that you're objecting to?
yeah.
So if
It's too much.
if the metal was asphalt, if we did asphalt on either side,
Do we
and
have to have all of that there?
well, again, we've broken up the front elevation with these gables, okay, to step back from the front of the house, again, to keep our square footages in conformance with our, our floor area ratio, and that was the way, that to do it. So I introduced a design element to break that up from the street. So I'm not seeing a monolithic two gables that, just a little bit more detail. And it is a detail thing.
You can't get wooden shingles.
Yeah, what happened to this?
Another material.
Well, yeah, but it's
And,
ecological.
on a shallow pit, I'd have to, pitch it up.
All
It's
of
a,
this.
it's a shallow pitch roof. I mean, I don't mind doing an asphalt shingle, and I think my client would mind doing an asphalt shingle.
What about a wooden shingle?
He's saying
Again, I think it's a little bit too shallow to do. It's only like a 3-pitch, so
Can't
we'd have to,
handle the water.
right. I'd have to increase. We'd have to
Because
increase it.
They've so expanded the house that they can't get a pitch. This is what's going on everywhere. I think it's just, I just saw someplace too, when I was driving around today, looking at houses that I thought had too much metal like this.
We can reduce, like I said, we can reduce the metal. We can eliminate the metal. We can go to an asphalt shingle roof, and
Well, then it's gonna have a big black roof there. That to me is.
Or you could do what Rob did, this one here, though.
Yeah, let's see that. It's called slate? No.
It's called Morning Nantucket or
Oh,
something.
yeah, that's the one that looks the most like wood.
it's a little more.
shingles.
No, it's the morning in Nantucket is,
Yeah, that's the one that most people use.
Nantucket
to
Morning
make it.
architectural shingles.
and that's kind of like it's weathered into and then we can just introduce that as our shingle. It's all the way across the board. I would be fine with that if this board is okay with that.
Oh, Nina, that would be better.
I think, well, please go ahead.
I think Jane already commented.
Kathy, Jane? Here's what I'm hearing. A couple things. I'm feeling you're hearing that very heavy black roof on a white house is making it feel a little top heavy, and the materials aren't really maybe as cohesive and harmonious with other houses in their neighborhood.
Okay.
So I see two things. I understand that your issue with the standing seam is you don't have roof pitch for wood because you're below 8 in your pitch, or below
I'm
8.
below
or
3
You're below
on the
3, so
pitch,
you're not
right.
going to have the pitch there. But I think if you softened the roof with a wood shingle or a lighter architectural shingle, and then the slate gray, I don't think it's going to look as graphic. Or take all of that roofing material and make it all the lighter gray and make it all consistent.
I don't mind
Then
the
I
color.
then I think what you're doing is, sometimes we see houses, and when you drive it, there's a sort of an architectural honesty to a lot of what goes on in Southampton. And when you start adding, you've already got board and batten, then you've got metal, then you've got all these various pieces, and when you start putting them all together, they look too complicated and they don't look harmonious with the neighborhood because the detail work is too heavy on them. We have other houses where they don't have enough detail on them, where the window-to-wall ratio is so thin that it doesn't work. But in this case, I feel like the dark roof isn't working. I think if you took all of that to shingle and to the lighter gray shingle, I feel like you're getting
Yes.
better
More like that.
better
So
opinion.
Nina, what was that color that you?
Nantucket Morning.
And that is an asphalt.
Does
That's
it say?
it's an asphalt shingle.
Yes.
Architectural shingles.
My other question is the front door, is that glass panels in the front door, or are they side lights with a solid front door?
Well, we did, my client wanted a 3/4 door, so she wants to be able to see out her front door. And the side lights match, the same height, so it's a 3/4 glass door. So solid panels on the bottom, glass on the sides.
I'm generally not in favor of glass
I know
seats
that
front
you're-
doors on
you're-
these houses. How do other people feel? That's not something we've been approving. Anyone else have an opinion?
I would vote for a white front door to match the
Break up
facade.
some of this.
I think the lowering of the transoms in the back brought it
Good.
is good, and it brought it into line with the window that you have around the house. So if you'll work with this with a solid front door and changing your shingles out, I think you're getting really close here.
Can I just turn around and see if I can get
Yes,
a
you
nod
can.
from the two people who
Yes,
are
you
paying the
can.
bills?
Go for it.
We like nods.
Well, you could maybe go over to them.
We had the same
Oh,
front door.
we can't have shouting
Yeah,
from the
but-
audience. You can
You need
you can go
you-
like have
yeah,
a
you can
chat.
come
which
up.
is
You can come
fine.
up and you can come out and introduce yourself.
I'd rather
Yes.
hear from Joe.
Yes.
Joseph Tadaro, my wife and I were the owners of 106 Powell. We had the same front door the last meeting, so that's why we left it.
Do you have an objection to a solid front door?
Pardon me?
Do you have an objection to a solid front door
With side lights?
with side lights? Just the same configuration of the door itself being solid instead of glass.
No, not really. What about maybe three lights on the top instead of 3/4?
I think if you leave it the way it is and just change the door to solid and change your roofing material, you're real close here.
Can I note that this is a north elevation? If this was a south elevation, I would definitely say more glass for passive solar heating. But this is an awful lot of glass for a north elevation in terms of energy
It's north, right.
perspective.
Right. Okay, so I don't have a problem with that. And then as far as the standing seam, I thought the board said that they were not opposed to it. They were opposed to the black and changing it to the color of slate gray. The Virginia slate roof is what I have on my pool house, and that was approved by the board. So that's why we switched to the Virginia slate, so I didn't have to redo the pool house and garage, which was done 3 years ago. It's not black by any means. Nick, do you have any pictures of the pool house?
At the last meeting, Susan said that the roof should not be the salient feature, and Nina said the standing seam and the pop-outs are too much.
We're back at the same.
Right.
We just said the same thing.
So I think that, Nina had said that, the suggestion that a little more subtle roof color all the way across the board would be something that this board would reconsider or consider as part of this approval. So,
And also a more traditional
Yeah, protect the
architectural language.
territory.
understood.
And Mark asked for more traditional coloring.
There you go.
Okay.
So where are we?
Nina, do you know what
Consistent.
manufacturer that roof is?
No.
It's just I'll find it.
Yes,
I'll find
somehow
it.
used,
I'll find it.
it's known to be when you're not using wood.
Right.
You use that.
Nick, could we do, on top of the bump outs, could we do the asphalt?
We can do the asphalt on the bump outs. Yeah, I wouldn't do.
You just
I
can't.
wouldn't-
You
I
just
wouldn't-
can't do wood.
I wouldn't do wood roof.
If a
Especially
roof
in North
if a
side.
roof
It's-
functionally if a roof pitch gets to they don't drain and then they don't dry and
And the
then
north side, yeah, not only that,
And
it's
it's
just,
north.
it's gonna turn
That's
green
north.
because
Yeah.
it's gonna.
you get all
that.
that.
It's gonna be-
Yeah.
It's always a
That's
nightmare.
come
north
up
side.
often.
Yeah.
You'll get a lot of moss on there. So.
So then we
Okay.
would have consistency, is that correct? with-
Yes, everything would be consistent all the way across the board.
And the
I think
back.
And the back. of
Wow.
course. Of course.
So if you can live with it all being architectural asphalt shingle and a solid front door,
We're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
okay, and the color is specified by
Right,
that.
Nina?
Okay, are they okay?
Nantucket morning.
Nantucket
Nantucket
morning.
morning.
I have it written down.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the
Do
public?
you know if that was a GAF?
I'll find it, Joe.
Okay.
I'll find it.
Thank you.
Should be easy enough.
Okay, so I'm going to move to approve pending receipt of updated drawings and markings showing the roof lines as asphalt shingle with the shingle as referenced and a solid front door in white.
In white, yes.
So I'm going to motion to approve Tadaro Residence at 106 Powell Avenue, pending receipt of updating drawings that show wood standing seam roof changed to asphalt shingle on the front and the back of the house, and the side lights remain windows, and the front door goes to a solid front door painted white.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And just to be clear, you want that by the Monday before the next, or the
No.
Tuesday before? No?
This is
No, we've approved
Okay.
it,
Okay.
but I won't sign the drawings.
department.
What happens is after we approve it, then I go back,
I'll get it right.
I look at the drawings, then I have to sign off on the drawings, they match what we approved.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Just a few more hours of time,
Thank
that's
you,
fine.
Okay.
So as soon as you get them in, Alex and the building department will notify me, I'll come down, take a look at them, and then you move on.
Yep, just the 2 full-size sets. We don't need the reduced.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I like the way you guys reconsidered the solar application.
Well, like I said in the beginning, there's nothing that we're against solar, but we have, you heard us, we have multiple considerations. Okay, so that takes us to new matters. The first up is 16 Willis LLC. It's 16 Willis Streets. Do you have the affidavits, and are they in order?
I do, and this one has a demo eval.
Okay.
So we should start with that.
Okay, hang on.
Is there someone here?
Hi,
Hello, if you could introduce yourself, please.
yes. My name is Nicole Adams. I am the architect agent for the owner, Jeff Gardner of 16 Willow Street, Southampton. My address is 11 Baby Road, Sag Harbor, New York.
Okay,
And I share my stuff.
we'd love that. Thank you.
Great. So the property that we are talking about is 16 Willow Street. It is not in the historic district. It's an existing, I'm not 100% sure of the square footage, I think about 1,000 square feet, 1955 structure, 3 bedrooms. We are looking to demo the house, and there is a kind of dilapidated little structure on the side. It's low, there's some wood in it. Leave the existing furniture shed. There's, we had a asbestos inspection, there's no asbestos in the house. And so that is the demolition portion of this presentation. This is the house, this is the structure here. B is the neighbor to the right, A is our neighbor to our left, and C is our neighbor across the street.
Is there any way you can get either closer to your computer or closer to your mic? We're having a little trouble hearing you.
Oh, I'm sorry, maybe it's not on the.
That was a little better.
That was better.
It's okay?
Yeah.
Oh, that got better. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I must have just had it low from the previous, town hall, sorry. So I was just saying that this is the existing structure that we're looking to demo. 1955, 3-bedroom, pretty bad shape. We're asking to keep the existing shed. This photograph over here, A is our neighbor to the left. Photograph B is our neighbor to the right, and C is our neighbor across the street.
Okay. Okay, so let's deal with the demo request first. Board members, thoughts about the demo request? Yeah, again, the build year in this house is 1950.
1955.
19. Okay.
Yeah, 1955.
Okay. So the question becomes, would you consider landmarking?
No.
Would you consider this house a candidate for landmarking?
No. Even though I like it.
Yeah, it's cute.
But it's it's also in terrible shape.
Yeah, Joe, it's in bad shape.
I like how it sits. It's kind of proud.
Okay, so I'm gonna motion that we agree to not pursue landmarking, landmark consideration for 16 Willis Street. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, on to the
Nina,
house.
Did you vote?
I'm sorry, yeah, I mean, I'm just sad about it.
Yeah.
The two of us, we'd like to move into a small house that's from 1950, I guess.
Okay, now let's move on to the house.
So what we're proposing to put in place is a 2,000 square foot, two-story house. Actually, maybe if I could go to photos of the inspiration for the house, which is on North Main Street, a house that this builder and I did for a client, renovated actually. It's an existing older structure. And it's very similar in feel to it. It's much smaller than this house. So we just wanted to show you, I guess we can, do you want floor plans or you just want to look at the facades?
We don't consider the interior, we consider just the exterior.
That's what I thought, so I didn't want to bother you with that. Okay. So what we're proposing to do is just a two-story house, natural cedar shingles. We are proposing a standing seam roof, but the pitch is very low, and it seems like it's a lot from it. It's a wide roof. The remainder of the roof would be an asphalt shingle, which would be this timberline pewter gray shingle that we've used up here at 111 North Main. Our windows are Marvin simulated divided light windows, and there's some details. It's a corbelling holding up a fleece board, some shingle design to kind of break up the facade as to kind of give it a better proportion. And that is pretty much the idea here. There's only 2 lights in the back that aren't covered, but those are also night sky, dark sky fixtures.
Aren't there 4? Aren't there 4, 2 on either side of your sliders?
There are, just that one happens to be underneath the roof area. This area is not, that's not roof. So this is your setback. Yes, there are 4 on that side. This is a little entryway, and the door is not off the street. The door is off to the side. So you don't see that from the street. And this light that also comes down is a surface mounted light, but it's under the roof.
And would you take us through all the material colors, please?
Sure. Let me go back to that page. So wrong direction. So the siding would be the natural cedar, red cedar shingle. The windows are white. The trim is white. The fleece board and the metal roof would be a galvanized aluminum. The fixtures would be a brushed steel. The gates, the fronts on the side would be also a natural cedar. Let me see if I can install that better in the elevations. The asphalt roof of material would be a pewter gray. And those are all the colors that are in this photo.
Okay. Board members. We have a ground plan here somewhere, right?
Just a quick question, how will the red cedar age?
I think red cedar, depending on how much light it gets, tends to go a little browner than silver gray. I think that was the whole thing about why does our cedar not get silver very often? I can cedar gray, right? I think it tends to get a little brown. But I think it's pretty traditional for what we use a lot.
The east elevation seems to have a very high ratio of glass on the first floor.
Yes, so they're very much like this elevation of the, very much like that. That's a little bit of a hallway behind there. And the house, because of the, it's a narrow lot, try and get light deep into the house. Those windows are somewhat tall, yeah.
The west elevation is misleading because the railing isn't showing. Do you have one elevation showing the front entry railing?
There is no front entry rail.
Oh, just on the rendering?
Here. Oh,
This
got it.
right here is the railing on the side of the house that goes down to.
No, I meant the rendering, the 3D
Oh,
rendering.
that's not a rendering, I'm sorry, that's a reference, that's a house that we did on the North Main Street. So this is just a reference.
That's a reference.
The builder and
Okay.
built, so it's just a reference for materials and colors, that we could stand by.
But the east elevation on this house has all sliders, is that right? It's the back.
So the rear elevation are all sliders, yes.
What's behind there?
Right, this room right here?
No.
is the living room.
Who's living behind there? How close is it?
Oh, it's
It goes out to a pool.
Oh, yeah, it has a deep lot.
kind of-
It's still an awful lot. Is there any way to
Okay,
not-
I have a few comments actually. When I look at your ground plan, it's very odd to have a house that faces a street that I can't see the front door. And the way you've done your plan, your site plan, I pull in to the right, which is what? Of the front door. I park the car, I run around and I reverse my way into the front door. I think that's not really harmonious because from the front of the street, you can't actually tell where the front of the house is. And what you've got a big window, but and from your floor plan, you go into whether a porch across the front that had a proper visible front door into the foyer area would seem to be more harmonious in keeping with what is sort of a normal framework for the village. So that I find odd, and especially odd because you pull in from the other side that when you pull into the property, you can't even see the front door. I think that's odd versus what we see. You heard the last application about the amount of standing seam room. I think that I'm not sure that all this standing seam roof works. And we have a lot here because in the corbels you have, 5 of them? Which seems like a thin amount of corbels if you're going to do corbels, and I don't know that they're necessary. They almost seem like an unnecessary just design element to me. I think the window to wall ratio is fine, but I think a reconfiguration of this little setback of where the front door is, whether you bring a porch out farther to make the front door visible or change the configuration there, because that's a window into a kitchen pantry, what you have marked 101. So I think some rethinking of that. The standing seam roof seems incompatible with the other houses in the village that we've seen. And I think there is some concern, I'm hearing some concern about the amount and size of the windows, because they're basically, is that a 9x16 and a 9x12 sliders?
Back here, I have to look at my windows.
Is the ceiling 9 feet or is the door height 9 feet? No, that looks like the ceiling height. So these are 8.
That's the ceiling height.
Okay.
The doors are, I believe the doors are 7 feet tall.
So there's 7 by, so the one on the left, 102 is a 7 by 14? 7 by?
Each panel is 3 feet.
So it's a 7 by 12 and then a 7 by 7 by 9. Okay.
So I hear you on the front door. We have been back and forth with the health department. It's not an easy septic situation. So our original driveway was coming in this way, and we were entering that way. So I hear you on that.
Yeah.
We couldn't swap, we couldn't switch because of all of the things, because of the pyramid law and all kinds of stuff. So this is why, that is why that is. I mean, we can rethink coming in.
Yeah,
This way and have a visible door.
just what is more typical, especially of basically traditional houses in the village, is when you drive up to the house, you know where the front door is. And I think it feels hidden here, and it feels even more hidden from the way you're accessing the house to me. I don't know that you're going to get, from what I'm hearing, I don't know you'll get support for that much standing seam roof. And then you've got your diamond pattern in the gable that then goes into corbels. It seems like the ratio of corbels seems thin. So those are issues that I would say that probably might need to be addressed. The south elevation, anybody have comments on the south elevation? I think the stairwell looks nice. Looks appropriate.
If anything, it should have more windows on the south.
Yeah.
Passive solar
Yeah.
unit. But
It just doesn't work with,
the interior.
it's actually such a small house, there's quite a bit of light penetration. But it doesn't work with our plan, it's there.
Is that because you're making the exterior wall the bed wall in bedroom 3? That you can't have a window there?
So that is this is our bathroom. Being that it's such a small house.
Right.
You know,
But you've made the exterior wall a bed wall.
I made the exterior wall. Do you mean, isn't this?
What I'm questioning is why there's not cross ventilation in that room, which would be, I don't care about the interior, but that's defining why you don't have more windows on that elevation, I think.
On this elevation?
No, on the south elevation.
Is that, because that's the south elevation?
Where's the north side?
This is the north. Well, the north doesn't have any windows either.
Because the north doesn't have any windows either.
So two sides of the house.
So let me just show you. So
Oh, that's
I think
because
that's
the peak of the, oh, okay. I
That's
see.
the peak of the short.
All right.
Because it's low.
So where there's no windows, that's because you have no windows in the bathroom. Okay.
I think it was that, this was might have been the,
Yeah.
no, that's that wall.
All right. Well, I think that's a lot of comment.
Okay, so can I just recap, so the standing seam roof, nobody likes.
Nope.
Horrible, you can rethink that with just trim and trees and boards, and just a differentiation between the.
Right.
The shin front.
I just don't know that they're necessary.
Yeah, and that's fine,
Yeah.
that's fine. I mean, we started out with, looking at that, our 3D model right there is, where we started, and we thought, we can just look back at our.
Yeah,
one of
I
our
get it.
main objectives. But if that is, if that's pleasing to you, we can go back and just simplify that whole facade. And then we can try to review the.
I'd be interested in other board members' opinions on it, but when you look at your 3D model, the simplicity of your 3D model, it's a little bit more in keeping as was typical in that neighborhood, in that part of the village, in terms of honesty. Because we're not adding decoration for decoration's sake, per se.
Right.
So yeah, so the front door, standing seam roof, and sort of rethink what's going on in that gable.
Yep.
And if you take a look at your south elevation, where that is there, just because it's thin from a window to wall ratio. When I look at the window to wall ratio, it's a little thin. If there was a way, even if you put smaller windows
Well, you could put a
into the
window
bathroom,
above the bathtub.
and you
I
could
mean,
put one in the shower.
Why, is there a reason you don't have a window above the bathtub for cross ventilation in the bathroom and a view out the
If
bathroom?
you're talking, I just, so we just agree for this room right there. It's just, it's kind of a little bit of an issue I found with people with waterproofing, with people with privacy. This is a very tight lot. They're our neighbor right next door has an accessory structure almost exactly on the lot line, just a little bit off. It just seemed like it might feel a little exposing. But there's no reason why we couldn't try to find something high that we could put up in there.
Yeah.
Break that up.
You might be able to balance it with one in the shower and one in the tub, but that'll be your consideration. I just, and also the cross ventilation for clearing that room would help you. All right. Are there any comments from the public?
I agree that the renderings seem less fussy, as does the reference image of the redwood shingle house in the beginning. There seems to be a lot of standing seamless roof, and then the diamond patterning, as well as this painted wood trim. It just seems a lot for a small house. I mean, when you look at the reference image, there's just shingles and white.
Okay, so are you okay with this whole roof being the asphalt roof?
Probably. We'd have to see it, but probably. I think when you start taking because it's almost a decorative change element off and start simplifying the house and making all the roofing more consistent, I feel like that improves the overall appearance of the house and makes it harmonious to what is typical in that neighborhood, in that part of the village.
Okay.
All right, so do you think you can come back to us with changes by the next meeting, which is on November 25th?
I can come back to changes in
Okay.
ASAP.
All right, so would you like an adjournment to November 25th?
Yes, please.
Okay. Motion to accept the applicant for 16 Willis Street's request for an adjournment to November 25th. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, we'll see you then. Thank you.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Okay, so that brings us to 1750 Waterview LLC at 1750 Meadow Lane. Do you have the affidavits, and are they in order?
Yes. This is also a demo eval.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Michael Lamont from Stella Lamont Ronnie Architects, an architecture firm in Bridgehampton for probably 30 years or more. My address is 16 Peconic Hills Court in Southampton. And we're here representing clients of ours that purchased 1750 Meadow. Actually, let me start with, I have Matt Horvath from LaGuardia Design on, and I also have Frank Guittard. And if you can let Frank, I'm not sure who's in charge, but if he could share the screen, he can pull up the drawings as I'm talking.
Sage is in charge.
Okay. Back there. So Frank, as soon as you can share the screen, you can pull up the first site plan. So our clients purchased 1750 Meadow a number of years ago. They have 3 young boys, large extended family, a multi-generational family, and they looked for a long time, and they decided this house, particularly because of the tennis court, because their family's all tennis players.
Can you pull the mic a little closer?
Sure. Yeah. Talk a little bit about the existing house. Actually, the lot that we're on here. So the lot itself, when you look at the building envelope that's shown on the site plan, the lot itself is quite deep. It's almost 4 acres.
Michael, we're going to do the demo eval first.
Okay.
Is that what you're going to talk about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess just big picture on the site. So you can see the existing house shown in blue. And the lot itself is about 4 acres long. We're 206 feet from Meadow Lane and about 370 feet from the crest of the dunes. So I think we'll skip. Frank, if you can skip to actually the existing, if we're going to do the demo first, we'll just talk about the existing house. That would be the first page of the aerials. So there was a variance in place when our clients bought the house to move the existing swimming pool from the front of the house to the back of the house. So the tennis court is pre-existing non-conforming. The house was built about 1990, late 80s, 1990-ish. And so the house is it's not FEMA compliant currently. So certainly what we're proposing will be FEMA compliant. It's very energy efficient. The rooms, the layout of the rooms it's very odd. Can you go to the aerial looking southwest, Frank? So you can see that the shape of the house, the rooms themselves, there wasn't a lot of thought out. So all the bedrooms, there's issues with trying to figure out how to put all the pieces together there. So our clients decided they would prefer to replace the house. You can go to the next one.
Do you have any information who the original architect was?
I don't. I didn't see it on the file in the original drawings. There was a pretty substantial renovation proposed in the early 2000s that actually never got built. That's why the variance was running with the property. So we have been, just a quick background, I know we're talking about demo first. We've been in front of the Village ZBA for about 18 months now. And I don't know if, like I said, just kind of jumping around a little bit. It was a pretty lengthy process. And due to a pocket of wetlands that you see the Phragmite on the bottom right. And part of that was due to, there wasn't any native habitat, there was no biodiversity there that the environmental consultants figured, ascertained after their analysis. But that was still the conforming part of the property. It wasn't regulated by the state DEC, but it was regulated by the village. So that pocket of wetlands, the Phragmite on the bottom right, is what actually put us in ZBA for the replacing the new house. So, like I said, after a pretty lengthy process, I can talk about what actually got unanimous approval ultimately from the village ZBA on our application. I guess.
Can I just ask you, in the swimming pool, that was a ZBA, you moved the swimming pool?
We didn't move this. We have a proposed new house proposed for this site.
I get it.
So there was actually a variance in place that moved the pool to the south side, to the ocean side. They never acted on the variance. I'm not sure if this is relevant, but you can see the swimming pool that's creeping up to the edge of those Phragmites.
He's saying that a variance runs with the land, that there is a variance.
It allows it to go to the south?
Yeah.
It allowed it to go to the south, but also going through the ZBA application, we have approval for what's shown on our current plan to move the pool to the south. And part of that was moving it away from the Phragmite wetlands and also actually creating a very extensive landscape of biodiversity, completely native revegetation. And I can talk about that in a second. We talk about the proposed, but there's a substantial, and I think that's what ultimately working with the ZBA to get unanimous approval. That's why it was ultimately called a model application in terms of creating biodiversity and eliminating all the lawns. But sorry to jump ahead here, but I don't in terms of the existing demolition.
So you hired a landscape architect to do all that?
Yes, like LaGuardia Design, who's actually on, and I think I can show those in a second. I'm trying to avoid jumping around. But
let's go back to the house. Let's go back to the house for a second. So as far that we don't know who the architect was.
I don't have record of the architect.
Do you have anything, Alex?
I would have to look to see if we have any of the original plans on file.
No one looked?
Well, I didn't know.
No, I didn't mean you. So there was no attempt, so we don't know. Is that what you're saying?
I personally did not, but if you'd like, I can see what we have on file.
You're the one asking about it, but I do think.
Well,
I can see if I can find that while we're talking.
We're going to bifurcate this out because I don't know whether we're actually going to vote tonight on the demo request.
Okay.
But we'll go ahead and look at the project.
Okay.
So because one of the considerations for this house is would you consider landmarking? Is it the work of a famous designer or an architect of record or of note? And because we don't know who it is, we would need that information in order to satisfy the criteria.
Hopefully I can have that before the end of this meeting. Somebody's working on it right now.
That'd be great.
Okay.
You're going to make me very unhappy.
Why?
Because I like to get this done. All right, go ahead.
I make her unhappy. Okay.
I don't know if we want to talk more about the demolition or talk about the proposed house.
No, do your proposal.
Do your proposal, then we'll come back. But
okay. So, Frank, if you can go back to the first page, just to sort of stay in order there. As I mentioned, the site, it's about the proposed house, which is going to be reconstructed approximately the line of the existing house is 206 feet from Meadow Lane, and we are 370 feet from the crest of the dune, one of the deepest areas of the village in terms of the distance from the coastal erosion hazard line to the crest of the dune. And the lot is approximately 4 acres in size. I'm just trying to give some overall context first. The next page, Frank, the site section. So the site section graphically shows the relationship of the house to the crest of the dune. And it's an area of rolling dunes there. So there's actually some dunes are elevation 16, elevation 17 as you go out toward the crest of the dune and then down to the mean high water. Sure, we have a copy of this. Frank, we're not seeing your screen. So just a quick contextual reference that what we're handing out is a site section that basically shows the scale of the existing house, which working with the ZBA is no higher than the existing house, lower than the adjacent houses. Right, so this is the site section we're talking about here. So that shows you basically eye level going down to the lower crest of the dune, down to 6 foot, a person standing 6 feet on the beach. So Frank, I think we could go ahead and sure, if that's helpful. I don't know if that's helpful.
So I think it is additional.
So this is not in the file?
That's not in the file.
Okay.
So it is.
Frank, we can skip the photos of the adjacent properties. Just go to the first page. I mean, we can, as far as the demolition, we have with our application, we submitted a substantial package of photos of the existing house.
Okay.
So, Frank, can you go to the architectural site plan from the landscape architects?
Are you looking at A200?
Looking at part of first page of the landscape section. So we have 4 drawings we submitted from the landscape architects, and I can talk about this pretty briefly. That's fine. We can use this one to talk about. So this drawing is done by LaGuardia Design, working with other environmental consultants to what the site strategy was to move the driveway gate further to the east. This is good, Frank. You can leave this on. So we moved the driveway gate further to the east to reduce the view from the driveway down to Meadow Lane, because currently the driveway is a straight shot that goes right to the house. And also the environmental consultants asked us to move the driveway further from the wetlands that are shown in the purple line as much as physically possible. So we've increased the purple line is the setback for the pocket of wetlands that shows up on the bottom and on the bottom left. Everything that's shown on this landscaping site is part of a native revegetation scheme, and the area of the wetlands that's on the bottom closest toward the street is actually a very extensive sort of native biodiversity that's created where there currently nothing exists there. It's a dead area with only Phragmites, and like I said, it was originally a result of road drainage. But after construction, there won't be any lawn on the whole front of the property or the back of the property, and everything will be revegetated with native material. So a gravel driveway, you come through a gravel driveway up to the front of the house, and including all of the landscaping on the side. So there's going to be screening both at the front of the house along Meadow Lane, approximately 8 to 10 feet tall, native bayberries. and then other material inside of it. The existing tennis courts to remain. There will be native screening on both the east and the west property lines going toward the neighboring properties. We had letters of support from both adjacent property owners supporting our application at the ZBA. And as you see, the line on the far right is the coastal erosion hazard line. So the pool will be now located on the ocean side of the house, away from the neighbor, and then landward of the coastal erosion hazard line. So maybe we can just move right into architecture. So Frank, you want to we'll just do a quick run through the plans, and then we can look at the models. We also have samples of all the proposed materials here, if that would be helpful.
Great, thank you.
John, do you want to go ahead and start putting those out? So if you want to go to the first floor plan, actually we submitted the basement plan. You can go to A100. So it's a FEMA compliant building, so the building has to
just stick with us on the exterior, because we don't have purview over the interior. So you might want to start with A200.
Okay, I was just showing you why the house is elevated as it needs to be per FEMA code, because the lowest floor is considered non-habitable space. So we had to build the house up to be FEMA compliant, and this is actually in a Limois zone, so it's AE +3. So the new house will be FEMA compliant, but the lower level, and that's the scale of the house, is a result of the FEMA compliant FEMA non-compliant lower level.
Yeah.
So the main, you can go to A101. So like I said, that the entrance, the setbacks of the house, the footprint was really a collaboration between the ZBA, trying to find as much distance from wetlands as possible, particularly for that pocket that we're recreating down in the northwest side. So the stairs were located, a terrace set of stone stairs. Those will be clad in madras, which John has right there. So it's a very neutral gray limestone. And there's a terrace of steps because we have to get up to elevation 16 for FEMA. So we basically have a landscaped area on each side. The retaining walls act as planters, and there's also a secondary planter on the inside of the terrace getting up to the main floor. Like I said, the existing house has a full set of stairs. Frank, you can stay on. We lost you. So the part of the challenge was getting up to elevation 16 for a FEMA compliant house. You must have internet connections there.
Sage, you're bringing the applicant back in. Thank you.
So the challenge was trying to keep the scale of the house, as modest as possible on a substantially, there's a substantial amount of program. So getting up to elevation 16 from elevation 6 was the challenge. So we have this terrace steps that are landscaped on all sides. We have a planter on the inside, and you basically kind of navigate through this planter to get, and these terrace steps to get to the front door. There's also a secondary terrace that comes around the side door. There's a secondary kitchen door going toward the west side, and then a narrow terrace that goes around to the south side. And then on the south side, we have a single level terrace, a pool, and then some stairs that lead back down to the east side.
Okay.
So the second floor. So on the second floor, we have you come to the top of the stairs.
I'm just really going to ask you to go to start at 200.
Okay, that's fine.
You're showing the interior
I
floor
know,
plan,
just
which we
trying
don't
to
have purview over.
Apologies for.
So let's look at the
So
exterior.
A200, and then we have renderings as well. So A200, the front of the house. The front of the house is proposed to be clad in a weathered rain screen, which is this material on my left, your right. And the idea of using the rain screen was try to have a material that sort of like it will weather gray. I think the quality of a rain screen sort of breaks down the mass of the siding. We've had we really tried tried to sort of keep the house reasonably quiet in breaking down the volumes and scale with using sort of distinct volumes for different areas of program. The side of the planters as you enter the house, we wanted something that wanted to be, you know, they will all be planted on the front as you see in his cursor right now. So everything will be planted as you go up with native planting. But those walls are proposed to be a board form concrete with wood texture in the formwork. And then the flat work, as I mentioned, will be madras. The siding will be a combination of rain screen siding, using the rain screen to sort of delineate distinct volumes and trying to keep a lightness to the overall house. And as well as there's a base area on the left side, and that wraps around to the garage level of a Swiss pearl panel, which is this gray cement panel on the middle of the table. The ceilings will all be wood, which is the sample on the right. So the idea is that the reflectivity will be minimized by the interior light, soften up the whole structure. The floor will be wood as well. The curtain wall is proposed to be a light gray anodized aluminum. I think I covered the material. And then, Frank, if you want to just scroll to the side elevations. So the side elevation, so on the east side, as you see where we have the first non-FEMA compliant floor that's basically 9 feet above your head. So we have a garage clad in the same rain screen that actually acts as a louver for FEMA compliant louvers. So it'll be a wood louver that allows water to flow in and out. There's a screen on that goes up from the walkway to the second floor, which runs down from the siding above. And that was to sort of incorporate the structure of both the upper floor and the lower floor. And Frank, you can go to A201. So the back of the house has a combination of the horizontal panels are the same rain screen, the same glass. It will be weathered wood rain screen fascias. You can go to the west side, the lower one. So on the west side, we have a fireplace that basically chases up through the house. That's going to be clad in the same board form material. You see the Swiss pearl rain screen panels on the side, and then wood rain screen fascias around. And then just a quick note on just talking about the the energy use of the house. So we're proposing a closed loop geothermal system throughout. We're proposing 25 kilowatts of power on the upper roof, which is the maximum we can provide, and it won't be actually seen. A very robust insulation package. Yeah, so I think that sort of covers that. And recessed solar shades throughout as well. So, Frank, do you want to go to the renderings? Can we start with the street side? And the glass we're proposing is, just to get this out there, this is the glass I like to use, which is so we use a very low
I'm going to need you to get near one of those microphones.
Okay. So I'll just put this here. Confidence. So it's called a SN68, which is a low reflectivity glass. It's got a 70 light transmittance, which means it reduces light transmittance by 30% versus clear glass. It's low reflectivity. It's very solar efficient, both for the R value and the U value.
Yeah, making us all nervous.
And to look at the rendering. So this is taken from just landward of the sort of midway through the tennis court. So there's still, as I mentioned, from the street, we are 206 feet, so this is probably halfway through to the property. So As you see, it's basically the materials that I just mentioned, that it's going to be a weathered rain screen material, using the rain screen to sort of to clad the volumes to try to keep kind of a distinct, clean, sort of volumetric nature for both the materials and the form of the building. All the fascias, like I said, will be weathered rain screen, gravel, pervious gravel, natural colored driveway. You can keep going, Frank. The side is, like I said, the sides will all be, the native revegetation wraps around the whole property. The sides have the similar materials. You can scroll through these to the back. Like I said, we have a rendering back from the crest of the dune. This is just beyond the coastal erosion hazard line, and there's about 300 feet beyond this line to the crest of the dune. Next one. So that's the side. Like I said, that's all clad in the same wood rain screen material, the vertical Swiss pearl panels above, using the rain screen material to clad the secondary volume that wraps around the house. Next. Like I said, that's going down the driveway. That's the lowest point of the property. And the house, as I mentioned, the house now is the same height as, is no higher than the existing house and lower than the adjacent houses on both sides. And you see the native revegetation. Do you have something further back from to the street? Right, the last one, number 9. So that's taken from street, and there's going to be, probably about, we think, 8 to 10 feet of native bayberries and vegetation along the street. That goes along. We move the driveway to the east. You can continue. And like I said, that's the house sits about a little over 200 feet from the road.
Okay, before we get into landscape, do you want us to comment here about the architecture?
Sure.
Board members. Jane, Kevin?
I could.
Would some context photos of other houses in the neighborhood be helpful?
It's going to probably be required. What I see is beautiful use of materials, nice house, but what I also see is a completely see-through glass box. And what I'm worried about is both from the beach and from Meadow Lane, because those are both public access, how it looks at night when it's all lit up and how it compares to its neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'd like to see is actually a nighttime streetscape of this house with 2 houses on either side.
Okay.
To see how it appears and what its glow factor is, both for its neighborhood and in itself from both sides.
I mean, we can provide a draft of that right now if you'd like to look at that.
You haven't put it with the materials, but okay.
Just for comment, if you'd like to comment, or not, I can wait till another time.
Okay. Well, let me see what other people have to say.
Frank, can you bring up the rendering from the either one? We have 2 of them, one from the front and one from the back. The plan, the house, while the main space, the main dining space and the main living space is see-through, the rest of the house is actually a double-loaded corridor. All of the east side, if you look at the plan, it's a double-loaded corridor with bedrooms on both the north and the south of the corridor. So this is taken about halfway down the driveway. And then from the back. And this is taken about halfway to the property. Probably should have taken it to 370 feet, but we came closer to try to show more of the house.
I think we'd probably like to see what it looks like in relationship with farther away with the 2 houses on either side as a rendering.
So,
Okay.
we are dark skies compliant, and it seems like
All of our exterior lighting is dark sky.
I mean, it's it's not just the exterior lighting, it's the lighting from
Mhm.
the entire project, i.e. the house, needs not to.
North elevation needs less glass for energy efficiency.
Well, in the south one, disturbs all kinds of.
And yours,
Flora
is that a
and
glass
fauna.
roof? That's a glass roof on the south?
There's a skylight over the living room, the sitting area of the living room. That's all.
Was there any consideration of how much light I know that the glass cuts down on some of the.
30% from clear, and
Yes,
then we have.
but we're talking about something that's
I understand.
close to 100% glass on the south-facing facade, which is the one that, in terms of flora and fauna,
Mhm.
is a should be a consideration, I'd say. And we'll, this is just, I feel like it's like going into a party now with a lit cigarette. People don't do it anymore. It's too strident in terms of what's expected by the society at this point, that we don't disturb the, I mean, I realize the
Yeah.
wetland stuff. I had worked on this, I believe. I was on a different board, and so I remember some of this.
Mhm.
The driveway and all this other, keeping the tennis court. So, but now that we're onto the house, I do feel that what I'm looking at is a light box. I think it's a beautiful house, don't get me wrong, but part of our job is not to allow
Mhm.
the dark sky initiative to be gone by the wayside. And we've had another proposal where they actually toned down a lot of the outside lighting. That's not what you're proposing, which was able to be handled.
Mhm.
But the inside lighting with so much transparency is to me an issue.
Nina, do you have other comments?
Ask me?
Yeah.
Right, can you
I
go to
love
the front?
west elevation. The other elevations are too sprawling. It's just a big glass box. I know that it's not the architect's fault necessarily. It's a client who wants 7 bedrooms and 3 living rooms. I think breaking it up into 2 structures, I've seen that done on the beach when there's a, very large glass box can be broken up. The proportions of the west elevation work for me. The rest is it's really sprawling, and
Frank, can you go to the street side?
the materials palette is good, and I just appreciate the one color and wood material, as well as the limestone. I'm just wondering about the wood siding being mahogany. Is that environmentally responsible?
We source FSC certified mahogany, and what's good about that material is that will last a solid 50 plus years with almost no maintenance. So you let it weather gray, and the rain screen lets it dry, evenly. So it's a material that will outlive certainly all of us. And,
Okay, I didn't know it was FSC certified.
Yeah, so we always specify FSC certified material on the exterior of our building, and anodized aluminum. Once again, I think anodized aluminum is a very low maintenance, very durable, lightweight material as well. And the fascias would be the same rain screen material. The wood, the ceiling, using wood ceilings throughout to also reduce any exterior glare, was the same FSC certified, lightly finished Sapelli mahogany.
Okay, great. I appreciate that you considered losing the basement space and tried to work with the FEMA zoning and did beautiful landscaping. But the program is a lot for the site.
Yeah, the existing house is almost 7,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's huge.
So
This is 10?
this is 96.
Yeah.
We're allowed 18,000 by code.
Okay,
I know that's
think
not
the issue is-
something.
the bigger issue here is not, one of the
I
things we look
understand.
at every once in a while is window to wall ratio, and it's tough when you have no walls.
Mhm.
This is a light box that sits in the sky, that's lights up, that's visible from everywhere. So we have not been really appreciative of houses that do that because their potential effect on the neighbors and on the visual of the village. So I think one of the things we will want to see is this house with the actual houses, 2 houses on either side,
Okay.
both from Meadow Lane and from the beach, to understand what the light impact of this house is.
Okay.
And to make matters more interesting, both from energy efficient and light box and dark sky, you have skylights. You basically have skylights for the entire upper story of this house, which further takes light into a whole other different issue. So I think from a comfort level, we're going to need to see all of that.
Sure, I can bring that.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the skylight, I don't know if it's just more technical information than you want, but we use a material called Solar Band 90, which is a much darker grade of glass to reduce the light transmittance as well, over and above what we're specifying for the curtain wall.
But even when I look at your north elevation, there has been some attempt to break down the glass by some of the wall work that you have going on across the front. That's not replicated at all. When I look at the south view, all I see is a wide expanse of glass that lights up the sky, and given the height of the house, it's going to be visible over all of the vegetation. It's going to be visible to the beach, even though it's set way back. Because that is very far back from the beach. I get that.
It's far back from the
But
beach.
still-
It is
still
lower
something
than
to see.
other sites that have a VE designation on Meadow Lane, or they're allowed to build much higher. We're at the lowest flood elevation here, so we're actually going to be lower than other new houses.
But I think the light aspect and the light emission aspect of the house is something I'm hearing concern from several people that we need to have more information on. Any other guidance or direction?
It's the issue.
Okay. So you think you can come back to the next meeting with all of that so we can take a look at it?
Whoa.
And we also need the
What?
information. I also need to know
Oh,
if
'cause
you
we
got the
haven't
information.
demolished it yet?
I know. I also need to get the information about the house.
Okay.
We haven't taken public comments.
Okay.
I'm going to get there, but okay. Public comment. Okay. Public is quiet. Okay, Counselor, I know you're unhappy that we haven't looked at the demolition, but
It's just out of order to talk about a
But
proposed
isn't it-
house if we're not going to
It's
demo this
because
house.
we don't know if there was a known architect. That colors the decision. No? Isn't that what we
anyone
do?
able to find out who the architect?
I'm sure we can find out. It wasn't a name that it wasn't anything that jumped out at us. So I can definitely have that for the next meeting.
okay. I realize this is out of order, and I realize where we are.
We need like the building records.
Yeah.
We need to look at the history of this site because we need to determine whether or not they're going to landmark here.
Okay.
Maybe I could, if I could, Michael.
Sure.
John, sorry. John Whelan from Stella Rouhani Architects. I can, between now and the next meeting, I can do a complete FOIL with the town and go there, the village, I beg your pardon, and go through it all and try to ascertain as much information as we can, and we can get a package of the existing,
That would be
basically
great.
go through whatever you all as a village have, dig into that. Okay.
Just understand that, like, one of the things we're blessed with in the village of Southampton is work from some of the most seminal architects around the world. And sometimes we just need to understand what we're making a decision on 100% before that decision can be made.
Yeah.
Totally
Most of the time, it's totally fine. As you saw here tonight, it's
Yep.
just,
I totally understand.
Thanks,
Okay.
John.
Thank you.
So you think you can be ready with all of that by November 25th?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm here, you'd like us to adjourn to November 25th? Okay. Motion to accept the applicant's request for adjournment to November 25th for 1750 Meadow Lane. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
And
thank you
won't
for
have
bringing
to
all
deal
the
with
heavy
me.
samples.
I won't be here.
Those are pretty.
Okay, so that takes us up to next, which is 64 Woolley Street. Do you have affidavits, and are they in order?
Yes, and yes. And we have another demo evaluation.
The woods are full of them tonight.
Demo of part of the house, though, not a full demo.
Whatever.
I'm just saying.
Okay, is the applicant here? Okay, if you will You know the drill.
Yeah, I know the drill. Waiting for this heavy stuff to be moved out of here.
Okay. Okay.
Good evening, members. I am Michael Kirschman, architect, 35 Garden Place, Brooklyn, New York. I'm the architect and applicant for this application, 64 Woolley Street, LLC. And we appreciate your consideration and time this evening for the application. So I just want to start out by saying that I think this application was important to our design team because not only...
Before you get there, because
Yes.
there's a demo situation here.
Yes.
Let's start with that.
I will. I'll start with the demo.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome. Does this gentleman have all the information I need? What? Okay.
Okay. So, all right. Why don't we view it this way? So I'll start actually pretty quick by the existing site plan that was done here, and I'll show you what structures look to be demolished at least. And there's an existing home here. It's a 1,700 square foot home, built about approximately 100 years ago. It is there is a rear addition to the home. It's a one-story addition. The existing home, I don't know if you can see this, is a two-story house, and then there's a one-story addition in the rear. There's also a garage that's in the rear property, along with a I'll call it a storage attachment to the garage itself. I can show some photos of that. All right. So, am I doing this upside down? Okay. You have the photos there. So this is the one-story addition that we're contemplating, proposing to remove. In the rear of the house, it's actually a basement addition. It's on a post foundation, and the floors are in bad shape. The structure itself is not in good shape. And in addition, there's an existing garage here shown, and there's a storage addition to the garage that was built at a later time, and that is in that rear elevation, rear yard. So those are the two parts of the demo that we're looking for.
So you're strangely not demolishing the house. You're
Uh,
taking the top off the house and demolishing parts of it as part of a renovation, correct?
Correct.
So are you lifting the house, putting a new foundation, putting the house back down?
Correct.
Then you're taking the first floor, raising the second floor by increasing the first floor, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Steps
I
are
lost.
gone.
Okay.
Steps
No,
are
I'm just trying to say, because
Oh,
it's
okay.
not actually a total demolition that you're
No,
doing
no,
here, yeah.
no. Right.
Okay.
It is those two elements that I just mentioned. That
Okay.
rear one-story addition and that garage with a storage addition on it. Those are the demolition parts.
These parts, okay. Okay. But let's address that for a minute. What you're actually asking for demolition on is that. Correct?
Correct. These two pieces.
These two pieces right here.
Correct. And this one-story addition to the existing
Right.
house.
I'm going to call that a renovation for a second here. Let's
Okay. Okay.
because you're actually adding to the house. So that's how you're tearing that off as part of a renovation.
Yes.
Okay, but what you want to totally demolish are these two.
Correct.
Okay. Let's start there. Board members.
I'll say it's a quintessential four square, and Willie Street may not be in the historical district, but this is certainly a very historical looking home. And I would definitely not want to see you losing the front porch, and that was the thing that I noticed right away.
I think what we're talking about right now is these two little structures.
Oh,
The things he wants to, we're not talking about the
Sorry.
renovation, we're just talking
Sorry.
about the demo. That's okay. The demolition, what he's looking to demo are these
In the rear property.
in the rear of the property.
And what about replacing a garage?
Well, I'll get to that in the new scheme and show you where
The-
that goes, but.
1-story rear addition,
Right.
garage, and garage addition. Right?
Well, yes.
That's what's being demoed.
That's what's being demoed. I'm just trying to identify what
Yeah,
those
because
are.
I have to mark up this form.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So this is what you're calling the garage.
Correct.
This is what you're calling the garage addition.
Correct.
And then that extension that was put on a later date from the house across the back
Yes.
is what we're looking at as far as your demo request.
Correct.
Okay.
Well,
Go.
that's fine with me.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Me too.
Okay. So am I motion to approve the demolition request? Counselor? Okay, motion to approve the demolition request for the garage extension, and the rear extension on the main house.
Well, is it a demolition or is it a renovation?
Well, we're talking
No.
about what we're demolishing right now. So,
Right now, you are not landmarking the
So I'm-
addition, garage, and garage
Well,
addition.
that was my question. So my actual motion is we will not pursue landmarking on the garage extension, or the extension was placed on the back of the house.
Exactly.
Well, you're not landmarking any part of this property.
Well, I gotta make her happy, made her unhappy once. Yeah, let's happy. Okay, so that's correct. That's what you need?
I want to stick to those portions of the house. We're not talking about the entire house right now.
Okay. So the motion is to approve for the demolition of the
The
garage, the
board
existing garage.
is voting that it does not propose to designate.
Okay, we will not pursue landmark designation for the garage extension, or the rear one-story addition on the house, current addition on the house.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Nina, to
now,
vote.
let's go to the house.
You have to
Oh,
vote
aye,
verbally.
sorry,
Yeah.
Okay, now we go to the house.
All right. So clearing those elements out of the way, which will be the, so this is reverse, right? Should I turn this
No,
around?
it's,
No, I don't know.
it's
No, I'm
facing
saying-
the board. It should
You
face
can
the-
see it this way?
You're facing us?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
it's
we can see it that way.
blocked out.
And we have copies.
So the premise on this, on the residence, is to treat it essentially as two elements, basically. And what I'm calling this is a renovation to the existing 4-square home here, and then an addition towards the back, a new pool, and a garage, a new garage at the back, at the rear of the property. The house in itself, if you looked at I won't go back to it, but the house right now sits equidistant on both sides, on the north property line and the south property line, approximately 14 and a half feet. And what we're proposing is, since we are reconstructing a new foundation, is to lift the house and set it on a new foundation southward, 2 feet. That allows clearance for this driveway area and access to the rear yard, which we needed for parking. So that's why that was done. So the new house in itself, and I'll explain that in a couple of different ways because I think it's important. This is the, all right, I've got to get to another plan.
No,
Yes.
actually, it's upside down.
Okay, that's what I.
Sorry.
You have to aim them at us.
Well, that, he asked that, we told him.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. There you go.
And your other renderings.
Right. So that's at least on the plot plan proposal side. And the idea here, and I can go to the elevation sheets, I think the comparison between the two will explain what I'd like to do to the 4-square home box versus the addition. But what we're proposing here, and it's pretty straightforward, and it's shown in this rendering. I'm sorry, I have to show that elevation change because I think that's important to show, and this is just a subset of it. Maybe you can, if you want to refer to this. Explain it this way. All right, so So the premise on the original Foursquare box is elevations shown there. We are shifting, as I mentioned, we're lowering it, and we are doing a couple small element changes. First of all, the main structures themselves do not go away. We're actually lifting as well this porch, and all the soffit conditions in there, the trim, the columns. We're going to be lifting that along with the house. It goes along with the house and gets placed in in the relocated condition. The windows, these windows we are replacing in kind, so they will match the configuration. They're currently 2/2 wood windows with wood trim, wood sills. There's a fascia on the house as well as corner boards, and there's a bottom skirt, and as well as a small brick shown on the foundation. Our idea here in the major changes to the front of the house is that there's a small entry foyer, I'm going to call it, addition, that's existing on the front of the home. And you could see it here, and it actually creates this off-center doorway, which I see from this, if you could see from this elevation. Okay. No,
Pull it up a little bit towards you.
Up. Okay. That way. Yes. Better?
Yeah, that's good.
All right, there you go. So it creates this sort of asymmetrical front elevation of the home. And what we've done is we've centered the doorway on the house. We've added another window here to balance out the elevation. And we've added a small window on this west elevation to let light in the second story of the house. That's what we've done here. So these elements really remain the same. You can see it in the new elevation. It's here. These are proposed to be. I'll pull this here. These are existing or restored materials to match existing in geometry and configuration. The window trim and sills are the same. Most likely they will be replaced. We haven't gone through everything with it, mechanically yet, but they will match the existing to identically. This porch condition here remains the same. What we're doing is we're providing a cedar shingle roof, and in these two locations that replace an asphalt shingle roof that are there. So those are the changes, at least to the front elevation. I could move on to the north and south elevations as well. All right. North and south, and this is going to show that transition towards the new. So once again, on the old Foursquare house, what we have done here is we've maintained the symmetry and the rhythm of the old home. We have replaced these upper windows. We're doing that because of building code reasons, the new code for bedrooms, the windows need to be larger. That's the reason why we're replacing them here. And we've proportionately sized the lower windows to, to match or align with that replaced window. The south elevation is the same. If I just want to stay to this Foursquare portion of the house, I'll show that really briefly, and I want to come back to this. And you could see that here. This lower window, keep moving this. Okay, there you go. This lower window here is at a kitchen. These were replaced at a certain time. What's shown here is a deck, and that one-story addition to the existing house. Same for these two windows. We are replacing these for building code reasons for the bedrooms, and we've proportionally added these two windows below to line up with these. What you see here is a small bathroom window, just functionally. We battled against it to keep this, simple, but practicality says that a small window in a bathroom should not deter us from doing much in this elevation. So that's the renovation to the existing Foursquare. Shall I go to the addition?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll talk about the whole house.
Yes, I will talk about the
Talk about
rest
the
of
whole house at the same time.
So what we've done is on the addition part, which is a two-story addition, You can see the transition on the north elevation. We have set this two-story addition back. It is a series of different roofs that allow the four-square home to be visible, and it does transition into the new addition. We've added a metal roof on the back at that transition piece and this low slope roof over the covered patio, but the other slope or the other roof addition, and this is shown as cedar also. Let me just show the back elevation so I can get a better view. This. All right. All right, let me reverse that. That's better. There we go. Go this way. All right. So minus that one-story addition on the rear, we've positioned that the two-story new addition towards the back. What we've done is we've inset both the first and second floors inside the original footprint of the old house, and we have added these different roof elements, presumably the metal roof here, and which continues as a skirt on the side, as well as this cedar roof here that matches the pitch of the old four-square. So anytime where there's sort of a transition from old to new, we have broken it up with this metal roofing that you could see here. We've added windows that are borrowed from other elevations on the other side for proportion. This is an entrance leading into the kitchen, and these are functional spaces inside on the floor plans.
Okay.
Right. I will go through the.
Let's get it all out there. Let's go to A101.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the garage and those plans.
So garage, what we've done with the garage, this is not a rendering, is we have, because we have provided, a new garage towards the rear. It is a functional garage. It does fit a car because of the parking requirements. We know about those. We have centered a portion of the garage on that rear yard just for symmetry. And there's the utilitarian part of the garage that will house the lawn furniture and things like that. But this does fit a car. And the reason this is done this way is, again, for that rear symmetry that aligns with the house. I can't help stop being an architect, and that's what was done, even though my clients were on the fence with it. But yet, that's a functional garage. So that's basically what I have. I can go through the materials on their own and talk about.
I do have a question.
Yes.
On page A011, when I look at the pyramid, do you need a variance for your piercing the pyramid?
Okay, that's a good question, and I've gone through this. I think the senior building inspector at the village is probably sick and tired of me coming in there, but I went through this with him numerous times, and the soffits, because the soffits don't, the existing soffits actually do pierce the same plane as
But you're
what's
picking up
there.
and moving the house.
Right.
Alex, does he need a variance if this is piercing the sky plane?
I believe the building inspector signed off on this application before it was noticed.
Okay.
I'll check the file. It should have a signature on
But
it.
and my understanding is the soffits can pierce that plane, as they currently do, by the way.
Well, they currently do, but you're moving the house 2 feet, so it no longer
Correct.
matters. And you're raising the house 2 feet, so it no longer matters. So this part of the house, no matter what, is not pre-existing because
Well, I'm
you're
lowering
raising
the house 2 feet.
So but you're also moving it 2 feet.
Correct.
So I just need to understand that from building
Yes.
inspector standpoint. Okay?
Right.
You can use them to look at it, but they didn't sign off on the application.
Okay. Make sure you saw it. Okay? Okay.
So I'll just run through the materials here. Yes.
I think we have a pretty good idea of the materials.
Okay.
So why don't we go to comment here for a minute and see where we are, and then if they have questions about materials, we'll ask them. You've done a good job detailing them, and actually, if they're correct to your renderings, actually showing us what your colors and materials look like.
Thank you.
All right, board members.
commend you on not tearing the house down and asking for a full demo.
Okay.
It's a beautiful four square, and I would love to see the front porch remain. So I'm not sure why you're taking that away.
Well, I think there's a reason for it, and I think it completely changes the nature of the building.
Oh, can I just,
No, we're going
address
to take
it?
comments.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's changed shape.
Comment.
If you pick it up and you take 3 steps away, correct?
Yes. Correct.
She's right. There's something about that. To me, it changes the entire front. And then the height of the door is the same or different?
The height of the front door,
And the first floor, isn't that what you've done?
Yeah,
You've added.
because you're making a lower basement, so you're raising the ceiling.
That's correct.
The ceiling height.
That's correct. And somehow it translates on the outside, which I can't exactly explain.
Right. and
So
so
I feel like
it
they
feels
did
very
this.
off that
They
it's
picked it up and then they let go and it went like this. And it squished down, and I think it completely distorts what the 4 square should look like. And certainly the one that they started with was spot on, was beautiful and correct. So I don't know. So what you noticed, I noticed it, I couldn't figure out what the problem was, but that's what I think it is. And I
green
find to
doesn't
be
help
that
either.
distorts the entire,
The
it
green
becomes
doesn't
more
help either.
squashed,
If it were
more
white trim, it would help.
pushed down. And then you add on to the back, but some of it shows a little. And I think it just is not a pleasing.
I really
renovation.
like a lot of what you're doing. I
Yes.
just don't like losing the front porch because I do think it's changing the whole
Distorts
perspective of
it.
the house. Yeah.
I think the colors are pretty. I think you tried really hard, but something is to me, it's off.
I also want to comment on the driveway with the geoblocks. I think that's a wonderful thing we need to see more of. I don't know if you need it in front of the house so much, but I like the
I think
idea.
that's required for parking. for
They
the village.
need parking.
Nina.
I tend to think that if you're going to try to preserve a traditional, then do that all the way. So I tend to agree with the ideas that the proportions are a little bit thrown off. On the other hand, again, like Jane said, it's wonderful that you're preserving the 4 square, and I think there's a fine line between preserving a historic structure and adding a twist onto it, or kind of messing with the proportions. I do prefer the original facade and the asymmetry of the entrance, but that's.
Me too.
Me
Yeah,
too.
I don't
Yeah.
know how else to,
Forgot that.
it's the
In
original.
equal parts to the porch for me, as I like the asymmetry also.
Right.
And there's something about a 4 square house having the 4 windows in the facade, and the 5th window kind of, unless it's like extremely necessary for, it seems to throw off the symmetry and the classic proportions of the 4 square. I appreciate the fact that you're putting all natural shingles. I agree that the grasscrete is something we should see more of. I appreciate the relatively modest way that you're preserving the layout of the original property and house. I question the small bathroom window just because I'm wondering if there's a way to do it that looks less like an add-on. I don't know if there's a way of doing a different type of window, or but it sort of throws off the rhythm of the facade of the south elevation a little bit. I appreciate ventilation, but just in terms of the facade rhythm. And then the roof, I think the backyard facade works very well. It gives a very welcoming terrace, a beautiful family backyard feeling. I think it's all great. It's just the standing seam again. I don't know if that could be. I guess it's the slope again. It's just the top roof. It needs to be all shingle. It just this one roof that's now standing seam at the top looks a little bit off. But in general, I commend you for really trying to preserve a historic typology and blend in with the neighborhood. And I think it's overall very welcoming home.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think, we have a lot of foursquares in this village, and foursquares are getting to be a precious commodity around here. I think what we're seeing is this has gone from being, what is a foursquare? To sort of a bastardized foursquare, because you've changed all the proportions, you've changed the window sizes on the side, you've made them bigger for egress, whereas if you picked the original house and put it back down there pre-existing non-conforming, and just worked with what you had on the original part of the house, that would be a different story. But the minute you start tearing out a floor, raising a floor, you force different decisions the building part may not have. But the charm, one of the things that makes a lot of that, frankly, a lot of the houses in the village so charming is that they're not perfect. They're not perfectly symmetrical. And what you had was basically, back in the day it was 4/4 with a door. Right now this is 4/3 with a door. And then when I look at the window to wall ratio proportion of the original foursquare, it's really charming, and we've lost that. And because by making the windows bigger, by adding a window in the center, by changing the proportion over, by adding an extra, this is forcing you to put an extra pillar across the front of the porch. I think you've lost the charming part of the house. So I think rethinking that, and then how you attach your addition to it, you can pick up your ceiling height in the addition depending on what you want to think about. Your renderings actually don't match your drawings on the pediment of the door that's on your north elevation.
Okay.
So we need to figure out which one do you want. I think the way it's drawn in the renovation is much more appropriate to the house than this sort of pointed pediment architecture that you have in the drawing. I think the rendering is probably more successful. I would agree that the standing seam roof on the second story of the house is suddenly jarring, and it pulls your attention to someplace I'd rather not pull attention to, and it's not typical, and there's not a reason for it. It's not a decorative element, and it's not a slope element that it's there. Therefore, I feel like the standing seam on the second, it's too much and inappropriate. I question a little bit, you've got sort of 2/2 beautiful fenestration on the house, and I have prairie fenestration on your 4 sliders. And then when I go to the garage, same thing, your sliders have sort of a prairie configuration, the fenestration of the sliders that go into the garage. I don't know that that's actually harmonious with the overall architecture of the house. When I look at the north elevation garage, are there surface mounted fixtures on that? I imagine there are.
Correct.
Yeah, but they're not shown here, so we'll need to see them. Anywhere you're going to have a surface mounted fixture, we all need to see it and understand what it is, and note that it's dark sky compliant. That's a lot. And my only question for you, and this may be an expense issue, is one of the reasons you're moving the house 2 feet of a house that's perfectly centered on the street is because you need the 2 feet to put your basement access to the, what is that? Is that the north?
Yes, north.
To the north?
North side.
Is there a world in which you also have these egress window wells?
Correct.
They go down to the basement until egress, and those are required. But is it possible to think about moving the basement to the other side, not having to recenter? I'm not really a big stickler because we're not in a historic district on recentering the house. I prefer not to, just because when we look at maintaining the visual, but I just wonder if there's a way that your basement access goes to the other side and we buy back 2 feet to not have to rearrange that. The parking squares in the front yard are a good suggestion. It's so much better than, a pervious, nice, mowable driveway is so much better than one that's not. I think the positioning of the garage and its location is great. And that's a whole lot of comment.
Yes, it is.
Let's see, are there any comments from the public?
Hello, Mackie Finnerty, Woolley Street, neighbor to the house. When we looked at the plans, I think some neighbors, it was absolutely shocking because it is a beautiful foursquare and it sits beautifully on the property and the trees and so on. And when you look at the drawing, it was really like a physical, it looked like the house fell down or something because houses on Woolley Street don't sit like pancake on the ground. Looked around the village and tried to find, I did find one that sits on the ground on another street, but it really is nothing like anything else on the street. So to me, it was personally incredibly jarring. The fact that this is really very historic at night, built in 1900, and it's now 125 years this winter. When I moved to this village, I couldn't understand the historic preservation rules, and I understood, Main Street was uncertain century, and then Elm Street, and I said, "What happened to Woolley Street? Everything's over 100 years old." They said, "Oh, it was working class." I said, "What does that have to do with historic preservation?" Both on Long Island, like Sag Harbor, fishermen lived in those houses, and all over the country, miners and all kinds of people live in historic houses. So it still remains disappointing to me that even though this house is going for $7 million on our street now, it's working class, I guess, and it still doesn't get historic preservation. I don't understand that. It would be preserving a house like this. Things I didn't like are the metal roofs in the back. I don't understand that. I found that really jarring, even though I don't have to look at it. I haven't really seen, we don't have a lot of metal roofs on Woolley Street, so I'm not sure why those are stuck in there. I agree with you on the Foursquare. It's beautiful, and I like the asymmetry. It is what gives characters, all those sort of interesting upper windows and so on. I know it says it's a garage in the back, but I can't tell you how many of these old houses I've seen torn down on Woolley and Elm and all around us. And they all turn into pool houses. People even told me that when I moved here, they just, until the building people are done, they call it a garage, and then they make it a pool house right next to the pool. Who wants your garage back there behind your pool? So I assume that's
frankly,
the same.
that's a code issue now that's separate of all this, but yeah.
But does anybody check it or anything?
Oh, yes, because you used to be able to build garages 5 feet off the property line on the small lots, and now you can't.
Yeah.
The code was changed in 2018.
Anyway, it didn't make a lot of sense for me to be back there, but also I know that you've all liked this, the front parking situation, which I do like. If you made the main driveways like that, it would make a lot of sense environmentally. But to have cars parked in the front of the houses, I call it the Queens look. It's like going in the Long Island Expressway. It's one thing if you have the expressway and you have no choice in Queens and your cars are right there and your house is right there. There is no excuse for that. This is a huge lot. There's plenty of places to put cars. There's no reason to put them in the front. It's just you have to screen it to make it even tolerable. It is nice that the grass is in there, but I wish you would require the driveways to do that, and then everything would look a lot better. I don't like to, I was on Elm Street the other day, there's one of those, and it's beautiful Elm Street, and there's 2 pickup trucks in that part, and then
I'm going
a
to ask
couple
you to
more
actually
in-
just keep your comments about this house. Okay.
But what happens when you look at that is all I'm saying. People do park, and it does look really ugly when there's no need for that. Let's see. Yeah, I think, and I also didn't like them moving it over. I don't know if they do have the proper side yard. I assume they do.
They would, if they
to
didn't,
move
they
that
wouldn't be
over.
here. Yeah, there's code on that.
But
because it would have gone in front of the building inspector before it came to us.
But on the other side, I guess there's stairs coming up out of the cellar and then a driveway, right? Which will take up that whole side of the house. Anyway, thank you for your considerations on this, and
thank you for your
I
comments.
think you're going in the right direction.
Thank
working hard on these issues that we both care about.
Any other comments from the public? Yes, ma'am.
Bear with me. I have a broken knee.
Oh,
Slow. I'll get there.
can you do me a favor and just pull the microphone down so
okay.
people,
Is
first
that
of all,
okay?
state your name and your
You
address,
can
please.
just bend it. It bends.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Your name,
live
please?
on Woolley. Is that okay?
Yes.
I live on Woolley Street, directly across the street.
Please state,
Directly.
please state your name.
Oh, Lucy Howard.
Thank you, Lucy.
And I live at 67 Woolley Street, which is directly across. I have a number of problems with this. First of all, I wanted to correct some of the things that the gentleman has said about the house. It was built in 1900. It was designed by an architect, not just a builder. It wasn't just thrown up as a foursquare. He designed it very carefully. So the house flows beautifully. I know you don't care about the inside, but the windows are set in a special way so that they take advantage of the beautiful light in Southampton. Every room in that building has beautiful light. It is not a dark building. Not one single room in that house is dark. So his chatter about needing to put in more windows, needing an extra window downstairs and an extra window upstairs, which distorts the look of the house. No question, it distorts it. That's number one. Why they want to lower the house to street level, the front of the house, so that you have no porch. I mean, you have no steps. They've taken away the steps. You've taken away you changed the whole look of the front of the house without any question. It looks awkward. It doesn't look awkward now, but it looks awkward in this new rendering. Very awkward. From the street, from my perspective, directly across the street. I am concerned about I know this is not your problem, but I'm going to raise it anyway. What are they doing about the trees? There's some beautiful trees on that property. Are we going to level every tree, as is the custom in Southampton these days?
We don't know the answer. Let's get to that. We're going to get to the
Well,
house
take a
first,
look at it.
then we'll look at it.
Let's see if we can find out.
There is some code we have to look on that, which is a little bit different.
I know.
The
This
trees
is
that live
not your
on village
purview.
property come under different rules than trees that live on private property.
I understand. Are they planning to keep the hedge in the front so that we don't have to look at those cars that are be parked right at the front door?
We'll get to landscaping.
That's another issue. There's a lot of issues. The whole back of it, the roof is ridiculous in the back. And the garage, all the way in the back, I don't believe for 1 minute that that's a garage.
Well, we can't, to quote a good friend of mine, we can't predict the future.
I know
we
that.
We look at what's put in front of us.
But I don't believe, I've been sold a bill of goods by these folks, and I don't believe that's going to be a garage. I think it's going to be a pool house.
Okay.
With a guest house. So I'm most concerned about the look in the front. It's very, very troubling.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go slow. Okay. Anybody else? No hands up? Okay. You have a lot of comments.
Yes, sir.
What would you like to do next?
I would like to see if I can address them, but definitely have it adjourned to another time.
The next meeting is November 25th. Is that good for you?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to motion that we accept the applicant's request for adjournment for 64 Woolley Street to November 25th. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that brings us to Beachcomber Lane Holdings LLC at 400 Beachcomber Lane. Do you have the affidavits and are they in order?
Yes. This is a demo eval. Yeah.
Good evening.
I don't think you can tell them what it is. You want to know the truth.
For the record, I'm from Queens and we park on the street. There's no on-site parking.
Well, there's a yes and no to that depending where you are, but yeah, I
Yeah.
hear you.
Oh, that's funny. I think it's like townhouse-like to have that.
For the
Not
applicant,
needed.
John David Rose Architect, Scott Harris Architect. Our office is at 596 Hampton Road. This
Great.
is about a small demo. The house and the property and the building in question, the small part of the demo, is all built in 2013.
Okay.
The architect of record, I believe, was Val Florio.
I'm going to really ask you to pull that microphone closer to you.
Closer?
Yes. They're not directional. I get complaints when people can't hear us on the Zoom.
So we're going to pull up on the screen here in a moment.
Yeah.
And this is a landscape plan by Ed Hollander. I'm going to ask Scott to put his cursor on where the existing covered porch is being removed. That right there, this of course is proposed, but the new one we're putting in is in the exact location of where the old one was. And the pool house also being put in the same location. You could put the cursor on that as well. And perhaps you could pull up some photographs of the existing.
Pretty spectacular.
If you pan out, you'll see that it doesn't necessarily blend with the house. There's a second floor porch on it, and it's in horrible condition. Other than that, it's great.
That's the pool house?
It's pretty
I
amazing,
think, well,
I
no,
must say.
this is the covered porch.
Okay.
It does have nothing to do, because I was like scoping around there as it's private lane and all that.
Well, although I don't want to get into that ahead of time because it is 2.5 acres and it's on a private
Yeah,
road. And
no,
from the
it's
hedge,
hard
you
to-
can't see
Okay,
any
so
of it.
right now,
But I
to
want
be
you to
very
focus on the demo.
Okay, so very specifically, you are demoing that.
We are removing that white box
Yes,
and
And?
putting I'll show you in a moment what
Okay.
we propose to put in that exact footprint.
but for the demo you're asking for is to demo that white box.
That's number one.
Okay.
Number
And?
two,
I got to get back analysis. Good gracious here. I'm being very specific on what we're
I'm
doing.
working on it, Alice. So we have a lot of lag with the computer right now. You can see the building to the left.
Yep.
So that's the back of the pool house that we're demoing. It's a pitched roof.
It was built in 2013.
It all was built in or around 2013. Construction was finished in, I think, 15.
Okay.
What's really important, once again, the lot area is 2.54 acres.
Okay. Board members, the technical question for us becomes, would we consider pursuing landmark status for that white box and that pool house?
No.
Okay. So then the motion becomes that motion to not pursue landmark status for the white box current pool house? Is it a pool house? What is it?
Covered porch.
Covered
white box
porch
is the covered
and
porch.
the existing pool house.
Correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we can move on to what you want to build.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So just to repeat that
And
it's
Alice
not-
is happy. So I'm good.
That's important, you know.
It is. You have no idea.
So it's not in the historic district,
Yep.
not a contributing building. It's in an R80 zone. Property is 2.5484 acres, 138,000 square feet. As per the as per the survey, which you have in your package, the lot coverage is 16,703 square feet. Permitted lot coverage is 17. We're doing, when we're all done, 16,766, so we're adding 63 square feet of lot coverage. Still well below allowable. As I stated earlier, the pool house, the main house, they were all built in around 2013, and they were, I'll call it somewhat of a spec house. I don't want to offend anyone. In your files, you're going to see a lot of pictures in addition to these of the neighboring properties. Could you perhaps start with a streetscape? I'm sure everyone's very familiar with Beachcomber Lane. Private road with hedges. Everybody has a pretty substantial hedge and large trees around the property. And that's going down Beachcomber. And this property is no exception to that. It also has hedges. I've been lucky enough to do 2 of the adjacent houses or work on 2 of the adjacent houses. That's our hedge to the right in the entrance to our driveway. So in the plan, let's go. Would you like to see more of the surrounding properties? I know you've got a full schedule.
Let's go ahead.
Okay, let's go to the, yes, please. What we're proposing is pergolas, open air pergolas. They have a roof, heavy timbers, and screens that come down.
And there's 2 of them.
And there's 2 of them. The existing white box had a second floor balcony on it. We're omitting most of that. That's all gone. Go to the next page.
So when you say you're omitting, there will be no public access to the roof of these buildings?
There will be. If you see to the top left, you'll see we have a glass handrail. There's existing doors off of this house.
Just
Goes on
just that little space there to
That's
the left. Okay.
Just that little space right there. Best seen in the top right-hand corner, if you could put the cursor on that, please. Do we, no, cursor's not working. We're having a lag issue. There you go. Oh. No, you're on the left. The glass. There you go, right there. There's existing doors and windows going off onto this very large covered porch, but quite frankly, no one uses it. But
it's there.
Next page. Yeah, we can now look at the pool house, which is similar architecture. Our goal is to downplay it. You're not going to be able to see any of this from the road. It's lower than the hedges. The pool house is very similar. Once again, it too is a series of heavy timbers. We're hoping to use exposed certified timbers by Icon or an approved equal. And then the building to the left, or the solid member, is the bathroom and a storage area. Once again, it's really kind of
and the rest is just, those are screens that raise and lower?
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually an open air pavilion with lowering insect screens?
Right. Yep.
Okay. But just came from one of those.
Lion's share of their life, they're going to be up.
Just came from
It's
one of
a
those
place to get out of
Florida.
the sun, because none of us should be in the sun. There's an existing tennis court that's there. Ed Hollander's the landscape architect, so you know it's going to be landscaped properly.
Okay.
Mr. Goda. So to the right, the building, it's in a clay model, but it gives you an idea of the form of it. And you'll notice that the windows, not all the windows in the house, but half the windows are a bronze color, and the other half are white. Our goal is that all the wood will turn the color as the natural cedar shingles. Right now it's cedar shingles. Once again, they're only from 2013, but eventually they're going to go brown, completely brown. And all the trim and all that will do the same on this, because it's just natural cedar left.
Okay.
I can go into the plan. There isn't that much to it. It's very straightforward. But quite frankly, if I can answer any questions.
Yep, let's go there. Board members. Jan, what do you think?
Well, it was a spec house, so it's kind of hard to try to have a lot of integrity there with the house itself. It seems very modern, but I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Well, me too. It's on a large lot. It's on a large lot. You don't see it from the road. I don't have an issue with it.
I don't either, in the house itself. There's a big white house. I mean,
Right.
It has no,
Yeah.
it's just a big house. So that to have, I actually think it's kind of cool what you
Me too. It's
designed.
brings some, it's
Actually.
interesting. Yeah.
Good for you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Nina?
I agree. I
Yeah.
think these heavy timber
Yeah.
cantilevers, they're reaching out. I'm sort of trying to orient myself here towards the ocean or the cantilever.
In two directions.
It's, but it's,
Okay.
Yeah,
it's-
towards the ocean and then towards the east as well.
right, but it's pretty, it's in the middle of that road.
Mhm.
The water is not coming up to
No,
to
no,
the
no.
White House.
I like the
They don't have a water
screens
view
and
yet.
I thought it was
open.
like
I mean,
no man's
that's cool.
land driving in there. It was like so anonymous with those, depending on who was putting which hedge.
I was
That
gonna
was
say,
the only,
That's the biggest problem with any area like
yeah,
that.
oh my God.
Yeah, it is definitely an issue. Thank you for the compliment. It's important, I'm sorry, were you done?
No, I was just going to say I appreciate the fact that you've used a material in an innovative way to sort of stretch the envelope a little bit in terms of providing this sort of shading element that reaches out. Did you provide any kind of research on the environmental soundness of the materials?
Well, it's all going to be certified cedar timbers. We've been working with a product called Icon, which is a thermally modified cedar. It's pretty cool stuff, and it never rots, and you don't have to paint it ever, which is a big deal.
That's what they tell you now.
We'll have this discussion in
What
50
I-
years, but that's certainly what they're saying. But
What I would say is
Good idea.
sometimes the best answer is an obvious departure. And what you've done here is an obvious departure in a way that's harmonious with the existing main structure. And it's smart. There's less access to the roof, which is, sometimes an issue for us. So less access to the roof, we like that. But the balance, the color, the materials, and the harmony between the obvious departure and the existing structure, I think works very well.
Thank you.
Are there any comments from the public? Sir.
Mark Matthews. I think you did a great job.
Oh.
Thank you, Mark Matthews.
Thank you, Mark.
Anybody else?
That was unsolicited, just for the record.
Anybody else? Sage, nobody online? Okay.
Okay.
Then I'm going to motion we accept the proposal for 400 Beachcomber Lane. Are there drawing dates on these drawings? In 1 sec. Do we have a submission date? Okay, for materials submitted on September 27th. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Took place.
Okay.
Great.
That brings us up to 8 Squabble Lane to construct a 1-2-story addition to a second-story roof deck. Do you have the affidavits and are they in order?
Yes. Not demolishing anything.
Okay, now you're just showing off.
No. Drive down. It would be
Thank you.
good.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're just going to spin those 180.
To face though.
Oh, this
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Susanna Herman from N Consultants, and this is Mark Matthews, architect for the project at 8 Squabble Lane. And I'm going to let him do most of the presentation. I do have some additional photos. I didn't realize you guys were so high tech, or I would have brought a laptop. But I have some printouts that show a little better than what I previously submitted, the existing house, which I think will make it a little easier to follow the plans. So is it okay if I hand these up?
Thank you.
Yep. And also, you're going to have a copy.
Is there a copy for your file?
You can have,
I can share it. I have one to Alex as well for the file. We'll share it. Okay.
Okay, Mark Matthews, 220 Shore Road, Southampton. I'm the architect for the Harwoods. I've known the Harwoods for 20 years, and they've been talking about doing this for a long time. It just takes years sometimes.
Apparently 20.
Yeah,
Okay.
the house is, it's a very nondescript, basically a ranch house with a slight 2-story addition on the south side that has the master bedroom and has a flat roof on top of that. They need a larger house. The family's growing, and they hope it grows a lot more, and they want to be ready for it. They're going to move out of the city in live here, and
Do you know the build year on the original house?
I do not. The build year?
Yeah.
I'm by looking at it, I'm thinking it's early 80s. Nothing too special.
The windows, that was sort of my thought when I walked around it, but okay.
Yeah. Were you able to get into the property all right?
No,
Oh.
but eventually.
Oh, okay. People come and go.
Yeah.
Okay. We've done other work on the property. We did the little cabana, which has the same roll-down screens, and so we're basically adding a master bedroom, and we're adding a guest wing. We're redoing the kitchen, doing the driveway that's there stays there. All the planting that's at the perimeter of the property, which is formidable, stays there. And we're simply adding some bedrooms and adding a master bedroom upstairs so they can enjoy the view of the Wickapog Pond. And there's some demolishing of the existing front porch and a terrace on the west side. But basically, we're reusing the house and then just adding to it, mostly on the east side, a little to the south.
Why don't you take us to A2.1 and walk us around the facades for what you're doing. And for the people at home, what you're calling the east elevation is the front-facing elevation.
The east would be the road side.
The road
yes.
side. The front door side is.
That's exactly right.
Okay, go ahead.
On the well, let's look at the east side. The front door stays where it is. We're putting new windows in the building because they're all tired early Anderson windows. And but you can see the second story, the new second story on the east elevation. 4 windows facing the east. And then on the west, you can see that it opens up toward the water view. That's the new master bedroom and office. The house gets no longer. The house gets only slightly deeper. It's still far from the property lines. And the other change is that I mentioned earlier, the second story addition that has a flat roof on it on the south side. We're going to put a proper pitch roof on it, which really will make a big difference, I think. All the materials outside are Alaskan cedar, which is long-lasting and appropriate to the neighborhood. There's white trim on things, and that's basically what we're doing to the house, proposing. Garage stays like it is.
Okay. Board members, questions, comments? Is the front door clear glass?
The front door is not going to be clear glass. It will be solid. There are side lights. Okay. That should be clarified, though. You're right.
Are there any surface-mounted fixtures anywhere? By the garage, for example?
There are 2 existing fixtures by the garage now.
Okay. So the whole garage elevation is existing?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
The lights at the front porch will be ceiling-mounted lights up in the ceiling. So it'll light the floor and make it warm and inviting, but it will not be a detriment to the neighborhood.
Comments?
Seems like you're improving what's there and not radically changing anything. So.
Thank you.
The east elevation that's most visible from the road is broken up and rhythmical. Even though it's a big house, there's a lot of variety, and at the same time, it's in keeping with the original.
Thanks.
Either of you? Is the second story deck, that's new? Or is there an existing second story deck?
There's an existing second story deck near where I said there was that second story addition.
Okay.
That's remaining, but there's a roof on it now.
There's a big picture of one of those pictures where you, yes, exactly.
This one?
That,
You can see why I want to fix that.
the roof deck is being eliminated, right? In
Yeah.
favor of a gabled roof.
Oh, here's another
Yeah, I
view.
do see
Here.
You can see why.
It's never
But that one's on a second story. This one's a first story facing the rear.
There-
Right, and then facing the rear, there will be
The-
a deck over a porch.
A porch
So
with,
you actually lower, that great
There's
big
a
deck
deck
that's
over
up
a
there
porch?
is going away.
yes, and
This one.
proposed. And there's, that will be a screened-in porch with roll-down screens.
Okay.
In terms of the deck being on the second story, I know the board is not in favor of that, but I want you to look at this property, and it is so well sheltered. Left and right, and east, and west is just Wickabog Pond,
And what is that deck off of?
off the master bedroom and office. So it's not a big space for a lot of people, it's master bedroom and office.
Well, it's still a big base for a lot of people. You just don't expect it to be in the master bedroom.
I would expect not, I can't control that though.
The house is,
Hey.
the house is 88 feet from the road and
Yep.
280 something from the pond.
What we look at for decks is more about sightlines to other neighbors.
Right.
That's what we pay attention. But this one that's 2 stories high, you're taking away. So if anyone's going to see a neighbor, it's going to be the people that are standing up.
That is the one that really looked in on the
The
neighbor.
people standing on the turret can see much farther than the people standing on the.
Yeah, standing in the yard, you really can't see the neighbors' homes.
Okay. Any other comments?
Wow.
Any comments from the public? I was going to say, when I first looked at the flat drawing, I was like, I'm not sure about the 2 peaks, yada, yada, yada. But then when it goes into its 3D renovation, its 3D expression, it looks pretty good. I think you've taken a good swing at making significant improvements in what's there and a nice piece of property.
It is.
So with that, I'm going to a motion to approve the application for 8 Squabble Lane from drawings submitted September 13, 2024. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There was a revision date of October 14th.
Oh, you know what? You're right, because the actual stamp is the updated stamp on October 17th. Okay, so then let me redo that. I'm going to motion to accept the application for 8 Squabble Lane based on updated drawings submitted October 17, 2024. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for correcting that.
Thanks, Suzetta.
Okay, so that moves along. We got 3 left. We're going to head up to, first one is 405 Ox Pasture Road. Do you have the affidavits and are they in order?
I do not have affidavits. Please give me affidavits.
You should have affidavits.
Well, I do not have affidavits. Please give them to me. I now have affidavits. They're in order.
Okay. Okay.
I'm Mark Cirillo from AutoGate Systems, representing the client at 405 Ox Pasture.
Okay. Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
405 has existing driveway gates now. It's basically similar to this new design.
Not anymore, the gates aren't there, I was there yesterday.
Yeah, the landscaper's doing the apron, the Belgian block apron, and pulled down the posts. So we're not going to work with the existing gates. They're not very old, only a couple of years. But the new gates will look, they'll just be continuously 6 foot all the way across versus dropping down to 5 foot, which is the existing job now. It's all about the deer. This is going to be, they'll be automated, they'll be self-closing, and opening on free entry for vehicles and RF transmitters for the client when she goes out on foot. The existing gates being that they are made of a combination of wood and plastic material. They're not really suitable for gate automation, and they're fine to open and close by hand. So our new job, the new gates are aluminum construction, same dimensions as far as the particulars. The framing is the same size as the existing gates. The vertical pickets are the same size with solid pyramid points on each. The columns will be flat panel 4 sides, flat recess panels 4 sides with bead molding, a light pitched lead-coated copper pyramid cap on each column. Color is white satin on both the columns and the gates, the same.
No lights?
No lights.
And you probably said that, but what's the size of the lot?
1.88 acres.
Great. Okay. Board members?
Looks good to me. Yep, good. Fine.
Looks good to me. I think it's, I like the existing one, but this is beautiful. And it meets the 40% transparency that we require. So any comments for the public? Okay. Motion to accept the gate at 405 Ox Pasture Road from drawings from Autogate Systems dated. Is there a date on here?
Yeah.
Very good. Dated September 30, 2024. Is that right? Yeah.
Correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Thank you.
You're not the next one?
I'm not.
Okay, we usually get you for multiples.
No.
All right, so
Why not?
then to Southampton Oceanfront LP at 1100 Meadow Lane. You have affidavits on their order.
Oh.
Yes.
I believe these next two applications are combined.
Okay, so 1100 and 1080 are both
1080?
combined.
These, I have affidavits for both of these.
Okay.
Is there someone here?
Because these, they sent them to me.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Information.
And these are one.
These
Yeah,
guys follow
these are two
follow
property
the
owned,
instructions.
properties owned in common that are used together. They have separate owners, but they're used as one compound.
Wait a minute, I missed it. We're
Why-
approving
how
one
could
set
we
of
be
gates
doing
that goes
that?
to 2 houses
There's 2 sets of gates.
off a common driveway?
No, 2 driveways.
Very confused. Okay,
But-
somebody come up and
By
present.
separate people?
Well,
Yes,
somebody come up
but
and
used
present this and
together.
we'll understand.
Separate entities.
It used to be one compound.
I believe it still is, to
Okay.
use a non-technical term.
Well, somebody come up and present this, it'll make more
There we
sense.
go.
Hello.
There we are. Hello. Wow. All right.
State your name, please.
Travis Graves with DGM Contracting, presenting on behalf of the installer of the gates and the client at 1080 and 1100 Middle Lane. You guys are correct. This is 2 properties on one presentation, two separate filings.
Okay.
Oh, it's Elsa.
Yeah, he said it.
So wait, are you building the
That's,
exact same set of gates in 2 different places?
Yeah, they're exact same set of gates in 2 different places. This was actually the installer had I guess I would say a violation on installed gates, so we're modifying the gates to meet the village's code. And they're stainless steel gates with some poly mahogany top and bottom rails. We're modifying the one set of gates to meet the 40% transparency, which this does. And they'll both mimic each other at both entryways. I can show a survey to kind of get the lay of the land here. It's a roughly 6.5 acre, kind of odd lot where it seems that, they developed multiple plots to kind of work in tandem with each other together. So you have two entries, one here at 1100, and then another one here at 1080. And same architect, same designer developed the property together. I guess they never actually got it subdivided. So when you're there, it's you have the feeling that you're in one property, but you're technically not. The gates were designed and installed by the installer, or the one we saw before was to mimic gates on the property to a T. So they were given a photo of a gate up here that was, I'm not sure if it's even operational, it was left to the side to match, with stainless steel over rails and mahogany top and bottom rails. Horizontal and vertical rails, sorry. When the work was stopped and the violation of the stop work order was issued, it was flagged to the installer and the client that didn't meet the transparency rules, which had come to existence after that old gate was installed and then removed. So this is our modification to make it meet the transparency, and other than that, it's pretty straightforward. They'll be automated. That's about it.
And there's no gooseneck?
There was a program for a gooseneck that's been removed.
So there is no gooseneck?
Correct.
And there are no lights?
No lights.
Okay. Board members?
Looks okay to me.
So
I'm just curious, is this what was, and you're changing it?
This is
Sorry,
the,
second?
it's
I don't know.
40% transparent.
Yes. Rocco, with my office, was there to speak to the exact level of transparency. We've been back and forth with the village. We're slightly over 40% with this proposal.
Hey Travis, if you go to page 2 of this PDF, it'll show the calculation and the exact percentage. If I remember correctly,
Can you just just identify yourself, please?
my name's Rocco Vivola.
And you are?
I'm with Travis at DGM Contracting.
Okay.
Yeah, 41.75 right here. Sorry about that.
I feel like it's,
Based on the panel.
who cares? I feel like it makes it so you can't see in there, which is not the idea.
You see that centerpiece there where
Yeah.
those are, what's the light penetration there? No, that, right, next row up.
Keep going.
Right here, right here
Yep.
is the light penetration would be these rails that are right here, so I can see between the two. They have like 2x2 openings.
So
They're equal.
so
they're
is it
equal.
is it basically basket woven 2x2s?
Yeah, correct.
So every other one of those is space and every other one of those is a picket.
That's correct.
But we don't see them coming down through that, right?
I think they're on the back side
Or they're on the back?
or
I-
the middle.
I don't know. Not my idea.
I think it's kind of interesting.
Jane, to answer your question, that photo was the original gate, and what they're showing is a proposed modification.
Because that one was not
Could you
transparent.
just
Correct.
hold it? I don't. Okay.
See, that's what it looks like. They've taken this and narrowed it down to where they have more
Yeah,
space
yeah.
on top.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can see
I
this.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We're still looking at the transparency calculations.
Are we?
Yep.
I think the applicant was trying to show something else.
Yeah, I was trying to share the photo of the gate prior to any modification.
Let it go.
Yeah, you can see this one.
Sits right there in the frozen picture.
There we go.
There you go. That was one that didn't pass muster
Right.
That's
because
correct, yeah.
it is not
So
transparent enough.
What are you doing differently? It
Yeah,
seems
so
like,
we're modifying
No,
this. to make it
if
more
you look at the drawing,
yeah,
see,
I'm looking at
what
the
that
the basco weave's only right here,
And
Is
that
that
was the
true,
whole
though?
gate.
and that was the whole gate before. All this section was the whole
Oh,
gate.
okay,
So I think
that's
it's
where I
good.
was really,
think it's
I
good
was
because
really
okay.
just
Yeah,
having
it's
a
kind of
hard time
interesting.
going from one to the other.
It's
Oh,
interesting.
okay.
Okay,
So the-
okay, okay.
No, I think it's good.
The horizontals have been
Yeah.
reduced in number, correct?
Mm-hmm, correct.
Okay, that's what I need to clarify.
and the top and the bottom, and also the basket weave doesn't go all the way down.
Yeah.
Kind of cool, you know. It's okay.
It goes
All right.
Any comments for the public?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not.
Okay, so wait a minute. Do we have to vote on these as two separate lots?
They're owned separately on paper, so
So yes,
we
okay,
probably
so
issue
motion
two
to approve
permits.
the gates as presented from drawings on, people, date your drawings.
October 7th.
On October 7th for 1100 Meadow Lane, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion to approve the gates for Dune Property Partners LP at 1080 Meadow Lane for drawings submitted on October 7th? Is that right? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, board member.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to motion to adjourn the October 28th meeting of the Southampton Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.